Well, that's great. How about you, Doug?
You muted.
Muted? For our listeners, Doug is usually a Christian man, but I can read lips.
You know what? I did say fudge, not the F-dash word. The great granddaddy of all swear words. It wasn't me. That wasn't what I said.
I'm sorry, Scott. I thought I was on mute, and I coughed there, so you're going to edit this out too. Everybody's screwing up tonight.
Scott, you're muted, buddy.
Okay.
Doug, you're muted.
Poor Doug. Still muted.
Holy flirking Schmidt.
Ivan, you done eating?
Damn it.
It's ice cream. It's practically not food.
I hope it's soft.
I have nothing. I'm enjoying my ice cream.
Okay.
And
Oh, there's another page. Oh,
Yeehaw.
Oh,
Yeehaw.
welcome one and all to episode 57 of the Plastic Posse podcast. I hope everyone is doing well and had fun and a safe Halloween. Joining me today are my co-hosts TJ Haller, Doug Smith, Scott Gentry, Sir Ivan Jensen, and the one and only Top Gun John Bonani. We have a huge episode for you, so sit back, relax, get some coffee or some adult beverages because here we go. First, we have a feature roundtable discussion with the recent MMSI show in Chicago with Scott, TJ, and the wonderful guys over at Small Subjects Podcast. We also have another roundtable for the upcoming Telford show with JB, Ivan, Graeme, Luke, and Jackson. We will also discuss a few other shows and events later in the podcast. But first, let's go around the room and see what everyone's currently working on and any builds they have planned for this upcoming holiday. Ivan?
So I made a commitment to not work on any scale models between now or last week and when I get back from Telford. I didn't want to get back from a week away with a half-finished project on the table. So nothing is being worked on apart from I've been playing a lot of Battlefield 1 with TJ and Jackson, and I've been having a lot of one-to-one lessons with Jackson regarding Fusion 360 and CAD and design and stuff because I've got a 3D printer. I think we've all got 3D printers. I was getting more annoyed that it's like, well, rather than just keep printing stuff that I find online, I really, really need to learn to design stuff myself, whether it be plaques or plinths or bases or whatever. One night I learned how to do all my plaques. That looks really cool. I'm absolutely addicted to making those now, and bases for figures and plinths and stuff. So I've got the basic understanding of how to make them. It's really fun. It becomes really addictive once you know how to do it. I know TJ's been doing it. But yeah, that's all I've really been doing, gaming and designing stuff.
Well, that's great. How about you, Doug?
Okay, so let's see. In the last couple of weeks, I had the group build with models for vets, which I will talk about later. I've been working on the Tamiya 48 scale Yag Panther and the Tiger. And for kicks and giggles the other night, I just felt like doing something but didn't want to really work on paint. So I pulled out the little Bandai 144 scale Razor Crest. Had it together in about 20 minutes, and it's now in paint. So I'm working on that.
That's great, Doug. How about you, Scott?
well, to be honest, my bench hasn't been all that productive. I've been working on a bunch of other things, but, main thing is just trying to figure out what my next big project is. I have been working on a Suyata 148 scale T90 that my good friend Grant Mayberry gave to me as a gift. That's been a bit of a challenge with the tracks on that tank, but it's a pretty good kit overall. So we got through that. And but as far as the bench, that's about all. A lot of modeling adjacent stuff.
We all understand that. How about you, JB?
It's been pretty busy here, traveling for work and pretty busy at work, but I have found time to finish the Panzer Gray #blue Samoa. So that's been the attention I've been giving. I was actually, just before the recording, I strategically placed the lens for the front light on a paint bottle. I'm like, I'm not going to lose it. I'm going to put it right here. Well, in my stupidity, I decided to clean the bench and I put that said bottle in a basket to put away. and now the lens is gone. So what I will likely do is my token technique is I will vacuum the area and then sort through the vacuum material. And that has proved successful in the past in finding stuff. That's a little frustrating, but other than that, that's the main project here. That will probably be the last project before Telford. So I think I'll call it after this. And the next few days is just kind of picking out what I want to take.
That's great. Yeah, put a pantyhose over the end of your vacuum. That's the way I do it. And just scrub around and hopefully find it that way. What about you, TJ?
Well, I've been like in a big figures mood lately, which is cool. I painted my first 75 millimeter figure just the other day. Actually, I finished it, I think, last week. It's pretty cool. It's an Austro-Hungarian pioneer officer from World War I. Put on a little base. It's from a company called Vice 75. I think they're pretty new. They're from Hungary. It was pretty neat. And then the day after I finished that, I painted a 1/16 scale bust in like a day and a half. That was pretty fun. It was just to get something done while I'm in the mood. And then I bought a bunch of more figures, some more busts, and I have a trickle of things coming in the mail this week. And then yesterday I started another 75 millimeter figure from FER Miniatures. It's a Knights Hospitaller Sergeant at Arms from the Siege of Acre in 1191. That would be the third crusade, if anyone is counting their crusades. So I painted the face today. I posted about it in a group, and it was not going the way I wanted it to go. It was one of those days, as we talked about a couple episodes ago. So I got it kind of to a point where I like it, and I'm going to let it sit for the night and look at it tomorrow.
Yeah, those figures are looking fantastic. I really love the metal on your bust. The axe is phenomenal, and the helmet, too. They both look really, really great.
Thank you.
The Triple P is sponsored by Tankcraft, makers of highly realistic aftermarket 3D printed tank tracks in 1/35th scale. Tankcraft Pro tracks are as real as it gets. These tracks are designed to be very accurate. They're based on actual tracks, not just copies of previously produced model parts. These are modeled in 1:1 scale, and then they are scaled down to 1/35th and then test fitted on all the major brand kits. I can personally say that these tracks are high quality and they are super detailed. Layer lines are practically invisible to the naked eye, and what little cleanup is needed is a breeze. So go over to tankcraft.com right now. That's TANKRAFT.com and get yourself a set of Pro tracks. And while you're there, check out some of the other dope scale modeling stuff that Tankcraft makes. Your bench will thank you. Just as a reminder, Posse fans can take 15% off their first order using the code POSSE15 at checkout.
All right, now I'd like to introduce a special segment. This is with Doug, Scott, and Jim Bates, the friendly Canadian from up north. Well, kind of up north, just south of the border, actually. But this will be introducing a 72 and 72 hour group build over the Thanksgiving holiday, November 25th, 26th, 27th. I'm excited for it, so listen up.
I'm joined today with Doug and our good friend from the Pacific Northwest, our transplanted Canadian friend, Jim Bates. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing great, eh?
We've been looking for you. You've been lost out in the wilderness out in Canada. You know, we've had the Mounties out looking for you, but we finally ran you down.
Yeah, I was hanging out with Sasquatch and finally got home. So it was fun out in the woods.
You got to go to some pretty awesome museums.
Yeah, I didn't quite get to do everything I wanted to do. I got up to the new Kelowna Flightcraft Center, which has a Mosquito and a Tempest. And then I was also up in Canada for the IPMS Vancouver show, which was awesome. But what I've learned is turning 50, I'm not sure I can get up at 4 a.m., drive up to Vancouver, do the whole show, have dinner, and get home at 1 a.m. anymore. So I think next year I'm going to get a hotel room one of those nights.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I hear you there. Well, the listeners are going to want to know. So we got to ask, how is your co-star? How is the cornbread doing?
Well, we got a problem. Everybody is a huge cornbread fan, and he's realized this. So he's demanding more money. And I'm not sure we have the production costs. So we may have to replace him with a cheaper stuffed pug in the future. Because he's off asking for like millions of dollars an episode. And I don't have that kind of budget.
All right, Jim, you wanted to do something with us, and that is a group build of some sort. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed when we 48-hour group build for Models for Heroes, which was earlier in the year, March maybe. I don't remember exactly when it was. And I thought, hey, 48 hours is kind of pushing it, but 72 hours, that's a long weekend. So I thought it would be fun to do a 72 in 72 group build over the U.S. Thanksgiving weekend. We would officially start at 12:01 Friday morning, and we would wrap up at 11:59 on Sunday. Now, Doug has pointed out before we got on that doesn't leave much room for the reveal, but hey, we can reveal when we all wake up on Monday. I trust everybody. The thought here is just build, get together, do some live streams, anything 172, be it Bandai Star Wars, be it a tank, be it an airplane. Heck, if you got a 1/72nd scale frog, join us. Anything is game. Just want to have some fun, get everybody together and get building.
Do you know how big a 1/72nd scale frog would be? Little tiny.
I know, but John Everett would find something cool to do with it.
Oh, he'd do it.
That sounds great. I'm definitely going to be in Thanksgiving. Usually, after the normal family stuff, I'm usually hiding out. Black Friday is the last time I want to be out and about in the world. So yeah, I'm definitely down for that.
Well, that's my thought is none of us want to be out shopping Black Friday, so let's put an event on the calendar to give us an excuse to stay at the bench and build. The other thing is it'll get one more model done by the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we will post more details as we get closer, but look to the Plastic Posse group on Facebook, and we'll just throw up live streams and, have people who want to join us. If it gets too big, we'll throw up a Zoom. We'll all just hang out, eat turkey sandwiches, and build models.
That's what I'm hoping for. I've also posted something up on the Escale Canadian Facebook page, but probably best just to look at the posse. And yes, I did work in 90s alternative rock into the post because, well, I'm me. I gotta. And by the way, you didn't ask, but The Mountain is not out today. So while I'm here, if you don't mind, I want to promo something else that's coming up, which is funny story. We have this show February 18th and 19th at the Museum of Flight. It's always been called the Spring Show. And this is my first official year taking it over. Due to Scott not understanding it wasn't really called Model Mania and referring it to as Model Mania, I've decided it's now going to be named Model Mania. So we're doing it again at the Museum of Flight. This is a display-only show. Anybody who brings models and wants to display gets their own table. If it's something that you're part of the posse and you're only doing one or two models, maybe we could do a posse table. But generally, we do it by modeler. Bring models. If you bring models, you get in the museum free. It's Saturday and Sunday, 18 and 19. We're having our usual seminars, but I am trying my best to work some new things in. And we're going to have some hands-on seminars from some people you've probably never heard of, some guy named Bonani and another guy named Rick Lawler. I don't think anybody knows who they are. They're going to be doing some presentations. Might try to get Dr. Strangebrush, but we're stuck there because he can't spray. But he'll be doing his typical airbrush presentation. And I'm hoping to get some other people in. I was reading about, I think it was Euromilitaire, or how a lot of the European shows have actual hands-on modeling. And I thought we need to work that in here in America. Enough of just standing up and lecturing. Let's do some other things. And I can announce here for the first time, we will have the demos, the hands-on demos will be under the tail of the Blackbird.
The show we went to last year was a lot of fun. Really got to, spend some time in the museum. Not enough. John and I were running around every chance we could. Oh, let's go check out the Concorde, or whatever. But I mean, any model show is always great. But a model show underneath an SR-71 or whatever the model is of the Blackbird is just awesome.
I believe it's the only model show in the world and I believe it's the M21, but you can look at models under a Blackbird. You can then go look at a Spitfire, a Mustang, a Thunderbolt, a P-38, and then you can go across the way and go into a 747 and a Concorde. There's a lot to do. What a lot of people tell me is it's a lot to take in 2 days. A few people have said, well, you don't have vendors, but Skyway Hobby Shop is a short 10-minute drive down the road, and I'm sure they will have a sale as they always do. So you can find more information at the Museum of Flight's website, which is museumofflight.org, or you can shoot me an email to rcaflawyerpilot@gmail.com. If you're interested, our 2 special themes, we're doing a Black History Month demonstration or display, and we're doing a display on the world of Gundam. So I'm also trying to get more than just airplanes and tanks. And my hope is we'll have a nice everything from the world of modeling. Plan here is to be inclusive, include everybody, and just looking forward to getting a lot of different models on the table.
Well, we'll have a pretty good contingent of posse and posse adjacent folks that are coming up. We have guys from Colorado, Oregon, California, Utah, of course, that'll all be making our way up there. So it's going to be.
I think we got a young man from Las Vegas coming as well.
Yep. Exactly.
So, yes, we'll have come meet all your famous posse heroes.
Doug's going to be there then.
Yes, we sure hope so.
You did say heroes, right?
Yep, that's why I said Doug will be there. And so I think for sure we got John, Grant, and Scott. Doug's a maybe. Excellent. Is Ivan coming out, and is he going to wear his Lord outfit? That's all I want to know.
Well, the Lord outfit, or else at least some good lounge trousers,
Well, as I think I told you, Scott, when I heard there could be lounge trouser merch, I'm in. Actually, if you guys do lounge trousers, I'll wear them to Commie Fest.
That would be excellent. That's worth it. That's worth it just for that.
Lounge trousers and the tie-dye shirt. It'll be wicked. Thank you guys for having me on. And the Museum of Flight thing is President's Day weekend. Just to remind everybody, get planning. I'm starting the hype train going, and we're going to have all kinds of cool seminars. If there is anybody who is really good at something and would like to do a seminar, please give me a call. I'm open to that. We'll have some Gundams. We'll have some education about aviation and Black history, and we'll have a whole lot of models.
Awesome. Well, Thanksgiving weekend starting at 12:01 on Friday. 72 in 72 group build with a Scale Canadian TV as well as the Plastic Posse. That'll be a lot of fun. So if you are sitting around in your jammies, jump on your bench, grab a 72nd scale Arma Mustang or a Bandai X-Wing or something, and we'll have a good time. And then February 18th and 19th, the Northwest Scale Modelers Model Mania Show, the Museum of Flight.
Now it's time for the Mac Group Build update. The Triple P Mac Group Build is sponsored by our new partner, Bases by Bill. Bases by Bill specializes in display cases and bases for scale models. Built by modelers for modelers, their premium quality display cases are available for any model and size. Check out their website at basesbybill.com to see their new custom display products for busts and figures. Their custom size display bases from 4 to 30 inches provide the perfect foundation for scenery and vignettes. If you don't see what you need, just ask. Chances are they can make it for you. Use the code POSSE at checkout to apply a 15% listener discount to your order. Bases by Bill for all your model display needs. All right, so over on the group build, and speaking of Bases by Bill, Scott posted the sweet custom base that they made for us in honor of the group build. A really cool picture of it. It's in the group. He posted, I think, today, which would be Friday, the 4th. It's pretty friggin' sweet. So that's not the only highlight, but if you go over to the group, make sure you look at that and bask in its awesomeness because it's really, really neat. As far as work being done, Stephen Reed is cranking out his, I'm not sure what it is. It's an SAFS of some variety. I don't remember. It might be a Prowler. He's just posted the arms and the feet, and they all have the same arms and feet. So it could be just about anything. It's pretty cool. He's very interesting, heavily weathered look. Lots of chipping is really cool. And then Rob Perlman today posted his raccoon. It's black and red. It's pretty neat. And I can't not mention, again, Cliff Herring's amazing Mark 44 that he's working on. He's got it all primed now, and all of the little details he added look really sweet. And all the casting marks, which are, I think they're almost all Easter eggs. So he's told us about one of them, which is pretty neat. Yeah, just all around good work going on.
Now it's time for our roundtable discussion of the recent MMSI show in Chicago with Scott, TJ, and the guys over at Small Subjects. Sit back, grab a beverage, and enjoy.
Welcome to another Triple P interview / roundtable segment. Today, Scott and I are joined by the two hosts of the terrific podcast, Small Subjects, Barry Beater and Jim Deergatis. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Great.
Thank you for inviting us.
Oh, thanks for taking the time to come on here with us. For those of you that haven't heard Small Subjects before, it's a podcast devoted to discussing scale modeling, diorama building, sculpting, and painting miniature figures. Barry and Jim are also the editors of the website boxdioramas.com, and they both have decades of experience as modelers. And importantly, for the purpose of this interview, they are also both dedicated members of the Military Miniature Society of Illinois, where they consider the great Shep Payne as a good friend and mentor. Jim, for our listeners who may not be familiar with Small Subjects or boxdioramas.com, can you tell us about your website and how you and Barry first became friends? Assuming that you guys actually like each other.
It depends. Well, he has COVID right now, and he didn't give it to me, although he was staying with me while we were at the MMSI show. So I guess you're still my friend, Barry.
Yeah, I am.
We actually were ordered to become friends by Shep Payne. Shep was a stalwart of the Military Miniature Society of Illinois and the head judge. And I kind of got roped into being his lackey. I mean, he would say assistant head judge in training, but mainly I carried everything and did all the work while he sat there and entertained visitors to the judge's room. I did that for about 10 years, and I've been head judge since he passed at the show about 7 years ago. And Barry would come to the show, and Shep in his I was going to say inimitable, but I do a fairly good Shep imitation. Declares, you got to meet this guy. He you got a lot in common. He likes music. You like music. Young guy, you got to meet him. So we did, and we became friends, and we wound up running the back end of the judging at World Expo in 2015 in Chicago, and whenever Barry's been able to make it, which is to say when there hasn't been a plague, he's been helping me with the judging in Chicago. I visited him, my wife and I, in Utah several times. He's been here every year. I mean, we're good pals.
Yep.
And it's all Shep's fault.
That's true.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about boxdioramas.com.
Well, Shep Payne thought that the box diorama was the pinnacle of what he'd done in modeling. And of course, he was very proud of the individual figures he'd sculpted, the famous Hysterex pieces he'd done, and all of those monogram armor and airplane models. I had done this when I was a kid. Teenage years, late teens, college, sex, drugs, and rock and roll interfered. Really, it was only rock and roll. The other two were aspirational. I returned to it, I guess about more than 25 years ago. And, I was a reporter. I was the pop music critic at the Chicago Sun-Times for 15 years. I covered all of popular music, and Ebert covered movies. It was the best job in the world for a very long time, until newspapers began to go extinct. So I just told the features editor, there's this club in Chicago, and I've always been interested in miniatures, and I'm going to go interview this legendary guy, Shep Payne. And I did. And we spent a nice day together in his inimitable way. Again, he says, I said, Shep, I love your books. I have how to build dioramas, both editions, how to paint figures, your armor book, your photography book even. How come there's never been a great art book of everything you've done in your career? And he said, you want to do it? It's all yours. So, he had photographed everything he'd ever done, and he had no pieces of his own. I mean, everything he'd ever done, he'd sold. It was his livelihood. So working with him for a year or so, doing dozens of interviews for that book, I modeled it on, if you've ever taken a film class in college, for a good 20 years there, obligatory reading was Truffaut Hitchcock. Francois Truffaut took Alfred Hitchcock through every film he'd made as a Q&A, and asking, as a filmmaker himself, he knew the questions to ask Hitchcock. And he was also a critic before he became a filmmaker, Truffaut. Truffaut was the guy in, what was it, Barry? Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Yeah.
He's the French scientist. He was also one of the leading French directors of the French New Wave. So talking to his hero, who was a filmmaker, being a filmmaker and a critic, he knew exactly the questions to ask. I was trying to do that with Shep. And that book was a labor of love, and people seem to really love it. And finally, all of Shep's entire career was in one place. So yeah, that's how kind of I got back into it. And he, the boxes, and they were collected by Malcolm Forbes and Andrew Wyeth, the great painter. He considered those the ultimate diorama because not only were you telling a story as you would in an open diorama, but you were controlling what the viewer saw, controlling the light, which is a whole other element on top of painting and sculpting. So I began to try it, and Barry began to try it, and I think I still agree. Barry likes to be contentious sometimes. He'll say, I don't know if it's the ultimate. He's just wrong. It's the ultimate form of diorama. Because it's the most difficult. But when you pull it off, it's the most rewarding. I think you get sucked into that scene in a way that no one else in modeling does outside of a box. As great as any freestanding diorama or vignette is, there's something magical about those boxes when you do them right. And I've scored maybe one out of, or two or three work out of 24, but
it's as if you're peering into another miniature world. That's what I like about them.
Yeah.
So, Barry, can you tell us about how you guys first came up with the idea for Small Subjects, the podcast?
Oh, man. I think it came from about a year and a half ago. We did a presentation for MMSI. They were doing the Zoom meetings, COVID going on. I didn't know if I could even do it. Right up to the last minute, I was ready to just tell Jim, yeah, I think you're on your own. But they had us talk about box dioramas, and it went fairly well, I believe, didn't it, Jim?
People really enjoyed it. Barry gets nervous with public speaking, and I think he was like physically going to be ill before we did that. And
Joan mixed me a couple of strong drinks first.
Yeah, that helps.
That's when I realized that yeah, I need a couple drinks. But yeah, when we found
you could have knocked me over with a feather. It's like when you realize that if you want to do a podcast, you have to talk.
Yeah, right? But when I found out that I could actually do it, I thought, this could be a cool podcast. And I'd actually been listening to you guys, and I figured if
they could do it, you could.
No. I figured if another dude from Orem, Utah could be on a podcast, then I could do it. So,
Years ago, there was a punk rock song by a band in Chicago called Blogs or Cries for Help. And I think right now we're almost at the point where podcasts are cries for help. They'll just let anybody do it.
Wow. I was feeling pretty good about myself until then.
Jim, going back to MMSI, can you tell us a little bit about the organization, when it started, how it's evolved from when it began to what it is now? Yeah,
at 58, I'm still one of the youngsters. And Pat Vest, the show chair, who Scott Gentry met in Chicago, is 60. And, we're the young guys. It has its roots back in the 50s. It was originally a group of Chicago area toy soldier collectors. There's still a fair number of toy soldier guys. There's Marks guys, and then there's the fancier toy soldiers that, one hand-painted figure, badly painted by modeling standards, can sell for $500. Dave Fontaine's and Berdu's, all of which I know nothing about. They just talk about that. But there was the shares interest in history for these guys. And when Shep got out of the Army and went to the University of Chicago, he was paying his way through school, the GI Bill, but he was driving a taxi, and then he realized he could do these figures and sell them, and that became his career. He just fell in love with Chicago and with the group, and he never left. So there's a lot of guys. Scott met Joe Burton. He's the president right now, mainly because nobody else wants to be the president. Quit. Joe's retired. He's a retired art teacher. He was 16 or 17 when he met Shep, and now he's 70 something, So a lot of these guys are older, but a lot of the new members that have come in have come through fantasy or armor modeling, Greg Seelar, Andy Golden, fantasy realm. Noelle Meyer is a big name, and she's really upped the club's game on that end of things. So we have people who are figure painters, who are sculptors, who are just history buffs, who are toy soldier people. The meetings tend to be presentations on a particular historical topic or a modeling session. But it's not all just modeling. And many of those guys, Pat hasn't painted anything, our show chair, in about 10 years. He keeps talking about doing it. They still love each other's company. I think it's a social group as much as it's an interest group.
I can hear Pat complaining about you saying that because he said he had a piece in last year's show.
He had one figure in 10 years. Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's something.
It's like I did that before lunch, badly, but I did it.
How do you know about how many members there are?
Well, I think of the local crew, there's about 120, 130, but we don't see all of them all the time. We have a quarterly journal, which is free. And if anyone, interested in Plastic Posse wants to be a subscriber, it's a quarterly electronic publication that we send out. And we have about 800 subscribers. And that really exploded. In the old days, they would do it as a print publication and you had to pay dues to join the club. And you'd get this in the mail. And then you had about 3/4 of the year, every year, was spent trying to get guys to pay their dues. I said circa the World Expo in 2015, where we had, I don't know how many exhibitors, Barry. MMSI this past weekend had about 150. We had probably 300 or 400 for World Expo. I just said, look, let's make membership to the MMSI free. And with it, the scabbard is basically an advertisement for the show. So we had modelers who'd come this year from Malta, from Greece, from Canada. Some of the usuals had not come from Sweden or the UK. But
we had a gentleman from Mexico as well.
We had somebody from Mexico City. It goes year to year. So we have about 800 Scabbard subscribers. I would say basically everybody who's interested in the figure hobby, which obviously is much smaller than the plastic hobby, knows of the MMSI and is a Scabbard subscriber. Yeah.
Well, since you briefly touched on the show, and I already know how you're going to respond to this question because I've talked to you about it in person, and I've listened to all of your guys' episodes. So, and I know I think we're pretty much on the same page here. But for those of us out there that don't know, what is the major differences between attending MMSI versus, say, IPMS Nationals or even AMPS? I don't know.
Yeah.
Jim, I don't know how familiar you are with AMPS. I know Barry is familiar with the AMPS.
No, I know AMPS as well. And I knew IPMS, although I'd never attended until this year's Nationals, mainly because Shep had fought for 25, 30 years to get them to open their minds. So, your question's about the open system. But I would say, first and foremost, there's a mindset difference with the MMSI show, with the MFCA show in Philadelphia, with the Atlanta Figures show, with the one in Oklahoma,
the National Capital one, and
the National Capital one in DC, and then the World Expo. The next one will be outside of Paris in Vienna. The last 4 have been Stresa, Italy, Montreux, Switzerland, the Chicago show, and before
we should mention the Long Island show so they don't get
Long Island show. Yeah, I think the difference between the figure shows in the U.S. and around the world, right, Barry, is they consider this an art show, and it is. I'm eager to hear more of Scott's thoughts on what he saw last weekend. It's an art show. What Shep liked to call it was a juried exhibition. So the idea of awarding as many gold medals for any of these shows as there are gold medal pieces, silver or bronze or certificates of merit, is not everybody gets an award, which those cranky old IPMS guys complain about. Everybody comes away with some indication of where their work stands at the level of the hobby at this moment, and in particular, the level of any of these shows. Because, Scott, some of the gold medal pieces you saw in Chicago, they'd be silver at World Expo. It depends on the level of sport, and it depends on the level of the hobby. And to me, that's more of a celebratory art show than the contest mentality of both AMPS and IPMS. Why does any artist succeed at the expense of another? We're not out to defeat each other. We're out to show our work. My favorite moments in the hobby have been, we were in Italy, in Stresa, which is just north of Milan. And I had set out to do a story in a box. Milan is home of the Last Supper. infamously, within a year or two of Leonardo da Vinci painting it in the dining hall of a monastery, the monks were mad because the servers had to go the long way around to bring them dinner, and it got cold. So they chopped off Christ's feet, put a door in the Last Supper, and then it just fell into disrepair. And by 1790s, when Napoleon was on campaign in Italy, they were literally stabling the light cavalry's horses in the monastery. And it was Eugene de Beauharnais, Napoleon's nephew, Napoleon's stepson, Josephine's son, who became one of his best cavalry commanders, who came to inspect the horses and the troops and said, I think that painting might be something. And he brought his stepdad, and Napoleon had a copy made that hangs in the Louvre to this day. They kicked the horses out. They cleaned up the shit, and the process of centuries-long process of preserving the Last Supper began. All right, so I figured, well, we're by Milan. I lived in Jersey City across from Manhattan. Every year we'd go to see the Statue of Liberty, or we'd go to see Museum of Natural History. I figured every school kid in Italy, in that part of the world, has gone to see the Last Supper, right? So I had this box diorama, and there were two things that happened in Stresa, which to me sums up the figure hobby. There was a troop of Italian Boy Scouts that were marched through, that were oohing and eyeing over that box. And there were 3 Italian nuns who I was watching them from about 20, 30 feet away. I think you were with me, Barry. Mm-hmm. And they were fascinated, right? And I got a mere bronze for carrying that thing all the way to Italy. I didn't care. I mean, those nuns and those Boy Scouts, those little Italian Boy Scouts, which I say as having been a little Italian Boy Scout, but in Jersey City. I mean, that's why you do it. It was wonderful, wonderful experience. Barry got a gold. This guy who never talks about himself, he said 6 words so far to you. He's the Grand Wizard Master, Grandmaster at MMSI, the Chicago medalist at Chicago, but self-effacing to a flaw, and he's never going to do another box, he tells me, all the time until he starts one 3 weeks before the next show.
I'll just talk to fill in the dead spaces when you aren't talking.
And correct me when I'm wrong. Well, he keeps asking me. I'm happy not to talk. I have other endeavors to talk about.
So, Scott,
ask him a question, TJ. Ask the man in Utah.
It's funny because I'm just here so I don't get fined. I didn't write the questions. I'll go ahead. Not that there's anything wrong with these questions. They're great, but a lot of them are directed to you, Jim. I think maybe it's because subconsciously Scott knew that Barry probably wouldn't want to answer them as much as you would like to answer them.
Well, and he knows I'm, by day I'm a rock critic who's interviewed. So,
Yeah, trying to get Barry to talk about his work is kind of like climbing K2. It's like
this is why I said you want to do a podcast, huh? I mean, for those who don't know, for the past 30 years, I've had a radio show called Sound Opinions. And the idea was Siskel and Ebert. I worked with Roger Ebert at the Sun-Times, and Greg Kot, my co-host, worked with Gene Siskel at the Chicago Tribune. We were both pop music critics for 2 of the biggest dailies in the country. What we couldn't do in the newspaper or in the books that we've written was say, now listen to this. So we started out on commercial radio in Chicago and then moved to public radio. We're on like 150 stations. We're on in Salt Lake City, for goodness sake. But nobody listens to terrestrial radio anymore. Podcasting is the future. And that podcast has like 500,000 downloads a month, which we're still doing. So, and we love doing it. And we cover the waterfront, as far as popular music goes, from the new Brian Eno album to, Micaiah McCraven. Yeah, I know how to do this, right? But I knew I could do it, and I enjoy. See, Barry and I would talk for 2 or 3 hours every Sunday, and I thought, well, if you just relax enough to do this, what our regular conversations. And he's got an encyclopedic knowledge of every modeler and every tool and every kit ever made. And it just boggles my mind. I can tell you all 5 guitarists. There were 5 guitarists in Moby Grape in 1967. But, he can tell you every Sherman variation in 135, which is take half an hour, but he can do it. So
which one of those would be more entertaining in a party?
Neither. I mean, it's both hopelessly, and if we hadn't married the best women in the world, it's like we'd be hopeless and never have a chance at a date. You know that. So anyway, I think Barry's done a great job with the podcast, and he does all the work. He does all the editing. I mean, Sound Opinions has 2.5 full-time, well, 2 full-time and 1 part-time producer. And that's down from during the financial panic of the COVID era, public radio in Chicago, which used to be our home base, cut its funding. So we're completely independent now, but to be able to pay a staff of 2.5 and various web help and stuff like that, and then the 2 co-hosts, I mean, that's a pretty good trick. I'm proud of that show. I knew I could do this, but Barry has surprised me, and I'm very happy. I think what we're doing, his wife said the other day, you're creating a really valuable archive, both about what we talk about, which amazingly people like those shows, and then the people we interview. Some of them have already passed. So it's these artists are important, I think, in this world.
It's a great show, and you guys really stand out from the group as far as being yourselves and bringing a different perspective than a lot of, what we're doing and what the other podcasts are doing. And like TJ said, I listen to all of them, and it's really terrific what you do.
Thank you. Well, we've also sniffed less plastic cement. So we may have, I don't know if that's helped or hurt.
The epoxy putty might actually be worse for us, though. So
they say that. They say don't swallow it, and the amount of time we're licking our sculpting tool.
Yeah, I was going to say the way that sculptors and painters are always licking their brushes and sculpting tools, I think that's got to be worse.
Yep.
Jim, Scott tells me that you ran the 2022 show and that Barry was your right-hand man.
Yep.
So how much work and preparation goes into putting in a show like MMSI?
It's a giant pain in the butt. I think every element of it. One thing we're lucky about is the MMSI still has a core group of still not too old to do the labor volunteers, right? I mean, because no part of it is easy. Setting up the hall for the exhibit is difficult, and, running around and picking up all the show printing. The judges' room is a different kind of intensity, and because it all has to get done fairly quickly. We had 150 exhibitors, and many of them had 10 pieces in their exhibits. You've got to corral the team of judges and get them out there and each in their different areas to look at those pieces and then collate the scores and then data entry and pull it all together between Friday night starting at 8 and the awards show 5:30 on Saturday. So, but I think Barry and I, with help from his wife Joan and various other volunteers, we've gotten it down. And we were talking before you got here. We made one mistake, and it was the good kind of mistake. We entered a modeler as a bronze, and he'd actually won a silver. And we caught it before he left, and we put the silver medal in his hand. And that's a good day. But it's hard. It's hard to keep so many moving pieces moving and getting them right.
I wanted to be clear about one thing though. So the show chairman is Pat Bess.
Yeah.
And so we just
run the judging. Pat Bess is the show chair. You're right. And he has to deal with the hotel and a lot of the logistics of room nights and all that stuff. We just have to deal with the judging. But nobody ever gets mad at Pat. All these people come to town and they have a really good time. I mean, and they get mad if they get shut out of the room discount block for $15, and then he goes
or if they don't refill the coffee pot.
Yeah, but us, the guy who thought he deserved a silver or gold and he got a certificate of merit. We're on MMSI is famous for its hospitality suite with drinks and snacks on Friday night and Saturday night. Barry and I always joke that Saturday night after the awards, it can be the hostility suite because it only takes 2 or 3 aggrieved people. And that breaks my heart. Scott was an assistant judge. He saw inside how the sausage is made. You have 3 people giving up 4 or 5 hours of their time on Friday to seriously consider the pieces in the area they're judging, choose the one that will give the modeler the highest score, and then they individually score and don't compare. And all of that, no one doesn't take it seriously. I don't believe anybody at IPMS doesn't take judging seriously. It's just a different mindset. You look at 40 beautiful Shermans. All right. 35 beautiful Shermans and 5, beginners, right? And you got to find 1, 2, and 3 what is the difference between Sherman number 3 and 4, 5, 6? And all of those other Shermans, the other 37, go home with no idea where they fall in the realm of the hobby. And I hate that, And so to me, there's 37 people who should be ticked off after paying $90 at IPMS Nationals to have a mere 3 or 4 who think I'm a jerk. I can live with that, and also I've got a very thick skin. U2 is the most pompous band in the history of rock and roll. They suck. I have just offended half of your listenership. Well, to the extent that they listen to music, right? And trust me, Bono's an ass. Really is. 3 feet tall. I've interviewed him. I've met the man. Larry is a nice guy, but he's the drummer. Who cares? If you're going to be a critic, if you're going to venture your opinions, there's two things that I learned from Ebert. Number one, he never wanted to be the final word. Right? If he loved Jaws and Gene Siskel hated it, they weren't telling you not to go see it. They were offering you 2 perspectives on it. What criticism is a passionate conversation between people who love the art form. There's no right. There's no wrong. There's no last word. There's just starting the conversation. So people who feel that they were slighted at any exhibition, ought to keep that in mind. If it had been a different team of 3 judges, they might have scored differently. And in the end, why are you here? You're here to show your work and to see your friends. And it's a weird hobby. You're there, TJ, in your basement workroom, right? Mm-hmm. If you didn't have shows and clubs to take part in, no one would ever see what you were doing under those gooseneck lamps, right? And that's kind of sad. It's isolating. So to show your work, regardless of what you take home, a little spray painted piece of plastic, as a medal, or I won some fancy plexiglass statuette at IPMS National. I was 3rd. Aircraft dioramas, category 712. Okay. It's in Andy Golden's basement, and he told me the cat puked on it. Now I'm not even sure I want it. Thanks, Andy. I had to leave Omaha early. He carried it home for me, him and Greg Seelar. All right. Well, that's absolutely true.
I believe you. I 100. As the owner of cats that puke on everything, I can see that in my mind. Yeah. There's probably one in the other room doing it right now on something I own.
Jim, you brought up a really great point. One of the things about open systems, not just MMSI, but in general, this idea that when a modeler brings their models or their work to a show, that is the show. If those modelers don't do that, you don't have a show. And so I think it really behooves any system, no matter if you do 1, 2, 3 or gold, silver, bronze, give people feedback. Give every modeler that spent all that time on the work and spent all the time and expense to come to Schaumburg, Illinois, and share their piece, at least give them the feedback so that they can take away some value, even if they didn't get an award.
Yeah, well, and Barry and I did an episode on this early on about feedback. You have to realize what may be useful to you and what you may disagree with. Not all feedback is constructive or useful or right, but being able to hear other people's opinions of your work is valuable when they take it as seriously as you do. And I've yet to meet anybody at any of these shows in any judging capacity who doesn't take what they're doing seriously and isn't generous, incredibly generous with their time. Nobody keeps any secrets. And I think that's the other thing. The podcast world is, nobody's is proprietary. Everybody is happy to share tips and experiences and grumbles. And I think that it's a great community in that regard.
Yeah, we talk a lot on our podcast as well about, the really great thing about modeling and social media is being able to tap into this collaboration. We can collaborate, with friends in other states. TJ's in Virginia, I'm in Utah, or even in other countries, and, be able to share our work and ask for input. And I think it's really the best thing about the community is the collaboration element.
Oh, it's absolutely true. And I'm glad the podcasts all have a very collegial attitude about it too, because I think all of them out there are approaching their subjects a little differently. And so, if you don't like one, don't listen. It's free. What's your complaint? If you like one, great,
So I know Barry knows, I talked to him about it, but I attended my first, I've been to 2 nationals IPMS. I've been to local shows for IPMS in the DC area and out west, but I attended my first figure show just a couple weeks ago, really. And I know Barry knows
the DC group, the DC group. Yeah.
And, the one thing, and I knew this going in there, obviously, we've talked about open system judging and this, it was one of those things where on paper, I was 100% for it. And then actually getting to experience it was like, well, yeah, duh. Obviously I was in favor of this. And now I know, now I can actually say I've done it and very much enjoy it. The one thing that I like about it, and someone mentioned this in the IPMS Facebook group, they were at MMSI and they saw that not everyone, but a bunch of people have business cards or a little placard next to their work. It was like, this is who I am, blah, blah, blah. And the guy's like, is this a common thing? Of course, all the IPMS guys are like, oh, you can't do that. It's supposed to be secret. Well, it shouldn't be, because when I go to an IPMS show, I want to know who did. If I see something that I like, I want to know who did it. And if you kill me if you want, I pick up the paper and look at every show I go to. If I see something I like, I want to know who did it.
Of course. Well, artists have signed their work for time immemorial. The freaking caves in France, where, it's just like they couldn't write yet, so the Cro-Magnons didn't sign it. But shortly thereafter, everybody did,
They put their handprint on it, though, so.
Yeah, that thug did it or whatever, yeah.
The way I always look at that... and
it's like, isn't that a Far Side cartoon, Barry? I think it is,
yeah. The way I always look at that is if there's a person who you're going to be biased for or against when you're judging, it's likely what work they brought, right? So it's pointless in my mind in almost all cases.
You're right, because I like this past year at Nats, I judged armor. I judged a ton of categories. I judged my friends' work. I knew it was theirs. I saw they were we have a group chat. They were sending us pictures before, and to me, it's almost insulting to the membership and to the judges that you're not going to look at your friend's work critically, because I do, and my friend didn't win, and I think he got knocked out because he made a mistake. Sorry.
Well,
you better believe I went and told him afterwards.
You're one judge on a team, so if you were giving it a gold and the other 2 judges are at bronze, the head judge would catch that. I mean, there's a million things about it. It's just very silly. We bring our work to the local club to show it in progress. Now with social media, the world is the local club, right? And what's the point of not knowing the artist's name? When I first read that comment on Facebook, I was thinking they were anti the mercenary aspect. And personally, Barry and I have never done anything like that. But a lot of these people do sell their work. And some of the ones who sell, I was shocked when Greg Seelar told us he sold every World War II piece he's ever done. There is no card on Greg Seelar. In fact, try to get Greg Seelar to answer an email, and it doesn't happen, right? But he has collectors who value his work, and it's like, well, okay, you want to sell it, fine. You don't want to sell it, fine. If they want to find me, they can come find me or find Barry. The name is there. This is my work. Yeah. Yep. I don't understand that at all. The anonymity.
It's not even really anonymity.
Honestly,
your freaking name is on the paper.
It's a charade.
Anyone can pick it up. And on top of that, there's checks and balances, right?
Mm-hmm.
In IPMS judging, you have a check judge that goes over everything that you submit before it gets submitted, at least at nationals. I've never judged on the local level. I've only judged at nationals. So that check judge is going to come over. If he's doing his job, which in my experience, they always have, they look at what you chose and they make you tell them why you chose it.
Right.
And if the good ones will look at other things on the table and say, well, why not this one? And you have to be prepared to say why. And if you were trying to game the system and get your buddy a worthless medal, you'd get found out unless everyone's in on it, which in that case, why are we even here?
Well, and let's be realistic. I mean, there are, if we have 800 Scabbard subscribers, there are perhaps 800 active modelers, probably being generous, in the figure world. IPMS will tell you they have 4,000 members. How many of those are active, right? I mean, even if all 4,000 are, clearly at least half of them know the other half, right? One of the things, and Scott saw it in action, one of the things I was proudest of, I think it was a couple of things. Our podcast, The Scabbard, we had a publicity chair who did a really good job this year. We were up about 40 or 50 exhibitors over where we've been even before COVID. We had 3 young fantasy modelers. There's apparently those 2 that we already identified, Barry, are a trio. Right.
Oh, okay.
There were 3 young fantasy modelers who also entered some historical stuff. They'd never been to our show before, ever. One of them's only been painting 2 years. They all won gold. Yeah. Right. So this idea of, well, the same people get gold. He's an automatic gold. Nobody knew these people's names. Their work was outstanding. We got them to a show. Now, see, selfishly, I can say, we're going to rope them in. We're going to make them members. They're going to be setting up tables, and then one of them can be head judge, and I can have fun. Right. Yeah. This is how it's supposed to work. That's what Shep did to me and Barry, and we'll rope these suckers in.
I hope they're not listening to this podcast until after you rope them in.
Well, I already told them that. I believe in transparency. I already told them. I said, we're going to put you to work. But that's how it's supposed to work. Outreach and building. And I just love seeing at NATS, at IPMS, all those Gundam people. And they just were not welcomed, I don't think, with certain exceptions at IPMS. Some people are very welcoming. I think John Benani is doing an incredible job of trying to throw the doors open on this organization so it survives, right? Because these guys are dying off. The old generation is dying off. Do you want this to continue or not? Part of that is welcoming new blood and celebrating. I mean, I love seeing those guys work. It was wonderful.
Yeah. Recognizing that modelers are coming into the hobby through different avenues than all of us came in to this hobby. Maybe not. TJ's a little bit younger, and I think, the way that he kind of started was probably a little more like younger people. But Jim and Barry, when the 3 of us were doing this, it was Spitfires and Tiger tanks and the USS Missouri. And to a lot of that younger age demographic, what they know is, they know Warhammer and gaming, and they know Gundams, and, they know popular culture and a lot of science fiction. And at the end of the day, it's all the same. We're all painting little pieces of plastic, for the most part. So being welcoming, like you've said, is so important.
Yeah. And if things change, if what's popular in 10 years is not what's popular now, I mean, can we really complain about it much? Things are going to change. It's the way it is.
I had a question. MMSI, did you have a category for Gundams?
No, we've never, I think they would wind up on the fantasy table, but we haven't really had people. There might have been a few over the last couple of years, but we haven't seen a lot of that coming in, have we, Barry?
No, not a lot, but yeah, they definitely would be in the fantasy category.
So at NCMSS, the DC club, they had 2 Gundam categories. This is the first time I ever went, so I don't know if they did it last year. And last year I think was really small anyways. Of course, the year before that was canceled.
Right.
So the history of it, I don't know. I probably could go back. I think they have all the awards listed on their website. So I was just curious because it wouldn't say it was necessarily well represented, not as much as say you would see it at the IPMX show closest to my house, which is in Fairfax. It's like right outside of DC. There's usually a fair number there, but there was enough.
Well, no, TJ, one of the other things Shep left us besides this philosophy about the open system was get rid of all the categories.
Yeah.
Right? We have it real simple. We have ordnance, and that can be a garbage truck. That can be the USS Missouri. That can be, the endless parade of Shermans. We have fantasy. That can be Gundam. That can be, demons. That can be Nosferatu. And we have historical, and sometimes there's overlap. Greg Seelar, Andy Golden, both of whom won a bunch of first, second places at IPMS Nationals, have vehicles that are world class, and they have figures that are world class, and their dioramas are excellent stories. But basically, let's keep it simple. What's not simple is that every modeler is judged, and not every modeler gets an award, but every modeler gets some sense of where they stand in the hobby. And then, like, why slice? I mean, category 712 aircraft dioramas, but that was 35th or 32nd. And then there was another category for 48th and another, I don't know, made my head hurt, at IPMS. It really did. 712 categories. What?
What's this problem you have with Shermans?
No, because I've never seen more Shermans in my life. I don't think there were as many Shermans, in Europe in the 40s during the war as there were at IPMS.
There can never be too many Shermans.
That shelf right there is literally all Shermans.
That's great. That's great. But I think every Sherman auteur deserves to know where they stand.
I agree. 100%. From personal experience, I mean, I'm not an idiot. Obviously, I know I'm pretty good judge of where the level of my work is. That being said, having that recognized was awesome. I mean, I've won at IPMS shows at nationals, cool, but earning the awards that I earned at the DC show was awesome because Barry knows I like painting figures. I would say I'm primarily an armor guy, but I love figures. So I'm working hard to get better at them. Mm-hmm. So having people look at my work that knew what they were looking at really, and then telling me where I am was great. Yeah. To me, that was invaluable. And the medals were sweet. So plus it's like a win-win. Like I get to be told where I am by people that know what the hell they're looking at. And because the DC medals that they give us are pretty awesome. They're really slick.
No, that's a really good club. And I think the difference with clubs like ours and the DC club and Philadelphia, there's also an appreciation. Now Scott was there. John Rosengrant just bought from a collector who passed Shep's famous Hanamegs diorama. It was on display. And you're looking at this piece from 78, 80 that was on the cover of Military Modeling, right?
Before that, it was like 73 or something.
It might have even been earlier. The painting, we saw many figures painted, World War II figures painted at a much higher standard. We saw the ordnance. Shep was still using the occasional railroad part and little bit of white styrene for super detailing and gizmology, as he called it, right? But there was a magic in that piece in terms of the storytelling and the composition that really makes it immortal. I think there's a more artistic eye when the 40 Shermans are being judged by the team at IPMS. After the 2 or 3 that jump out at them, they're just looking for flaws to eliminate the others. Whereas, and I think one of the things that gets overlooked is kind of the imagination of pieces. And I think that's what I saw when I say I think the figure shows are more of an art show. And there was so much great art in Omaha. I just wish people were more open-minded about it. Well, the old school. There is this, I love seeing this, and I think, I miss Shep for many reasons. So do Barry and I both. I mean, we were talking many times. What would Shep have said? How would he give us crap about this, etc.? But I think he'd be tickled pink to see this developing serious conversation between the 60% of the plastic modelers who think we need a better system and the 40% who think it has to be done the exact same way it's been done for 50 years.
Well, but I want to go back before I kind of talk about my experiences and how I felt about the show to what you said about Shep's work. And what was really awesome about seeing it in person for me is kind of what you highlighted. Some of the airbrush work wasn't maybe up to the standard of what else was on the tables and figure painting, but like you said, the composition.
There was no photo etch.
Yeah.
This bee.
Yeah. But I mean, the composition, the diorama is every bit as compelling. And not only that, but you really get a feel seeing it in person. And it was such a treat of how influential that piece has been on the hobby as a whole. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen the elements of that diorama in literally hundreds or thousands of dioramas since then. And that was all thanks to Shep.
Yeah, well, and I think that there's plenty of people who followed him who were every bit as creative. And that's the thing that Barry and I kind of drive home is the storytelling and the creativity at the end of the day. It may not be a flawlessly executed piece in terms of modeling or sculpting or painting, but wow, you haven't seen it before. And that's the one you go home talking about. That sticks with you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's what seeing your buddies at the show is probably number one, but right there, 1B is being inspired, seeing pieces that really leave an impression. And, we could talk about just that element from this show for hours. But anyway, so this was my first time, similar to TJ, going to a figure show. And what struck me, I don't want to be too dramatic about it, but when I walked in the room for the first time on Friday, I was there early. The first thing I noticed was about 70%, if I was just putting a rough figure on it, of what was on the table at this show was IPMS best of show level or above. I was really stunned. And there were a couple of different things that made me think that way. First of all, the quality, the art, the level of craft that went into the pieces, but also what was a little bit different about this show for me versus an IPMS or an AMP show is the level of presentation for the pieces. I mean, I don't want to say but nearly every piece I saw was on a beautiful base. There's a lot of beautifully stained wood. There's a lot of black crushed velvet draperies. Everything, the presentation was given as much love and attention as the pieces themselves. I think that leads back to what you said, Jim. It's kind of more of an art exhibition. The pieces are put on the table and displayed maybe in a little bit more of an art gallery than just throw a tank or a plane on the table. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but it's just a different level of attention. And then without kind of belaboring it too much, getting to interact with these guys, Andy Golden and John Rosengrant and, Greg Silar and Steve Husted and you guys, and just on and on and on. It's amazing, the camaraderie. This wasn't a big show in numbers, but it was incredibly collaborative. Yes, the demographics are getting a little bit towards the white-haired end of the scale, but almost everybody knew everybody else, and there was a real esprit de corps. There was a real sense, and that carried over into my experience with judging, of the community working to help people. I heard judges expressing sentiments that you don't hear at other formats, like, wow, this is, Joe X's piece here. This is the third or fourth year in a row, and I can see he's really growing, and this is really getting better, and a sense of wanting to encourage that and help with that. And I was really, really impressed.
Now, I know of a guy who loves painting, and I don't think he's ever scored higher than a bronze. And the team you were on, Greg DeFranco, was particularly struck by what he had done with lighting. And, Greg, and he got a silver, and what that meant to him was tremendous. But what was more important is Greg went over and talked to him and said, I really like what you tried. And that made his weekend, that made his year, and people have that attitude. It's really satisfying to me and Barry when people want to talk about boxes to us. I know, you can talk to anybody at that show and they're happy to sit down and tell you how they did something, or offer you some advice, or offer you a critique, and sometimes people don't want to hear. They want to just say, well, I was doing this in my style. Okay. But if you're open-minded and listen to what, Greg DeFranco tells you about highlighting and shading, or what we tell you about would this work as a box, wouldn't it? John Leland has been a world-class ship modeler for 20, 30 years. There's nobody who's working in plastic doesn't have stuff to learn from John, or Steve Husted, who won, So this is interesting. He was best of show at IPMS Nats, and that piece won best of show at MMSI. So it is not a figure bias either. Everyone who looked at that piece was blown away by it, the triplane.
And rightly so. Yeah. Well, Barry looks a little too comfortable. I'm going to make him answer a question. So Barry, is it the people that are involved in MMSI? Is it the way that, the judging scheme that, goes back to Shep and the original members of MMSI? What do you think is really driving that spirit of camaraderie and getting people that want to come to this little, with regards to numbers, show in Chicago? What do you think that is?
Well, I think it's the people, but it's also, I think the system, and not just necessarily the judging system, but the overall attitude of the show, that we are coming here to primarily just look at what we've done over the past year. What have we produced over the past year and discuss it. And the competitive part being removed probably adds a lot to that. And one thing about the judging system that I think is important more so than any of the actual details is, I think the most important part is the idea that we're recognizing that no system is infallible, no system is perfect or can be broken down into rules and you get perfect results. We're recognizing this up front, that we are dealing with opinions. We're dealing with some subjectivity. And so we're going to make it work within as best we can, that being known.
Yeah, I would say my experience is very consistent with that. There wasn't so much a focus on finding nits to pick and eliminate things as much as, we would take a piece or a group of pieces and the judging team would sort of kind of take an initial look. And then, rather than trying to find a seam line or a flaw of some kind, I heard questions being asked about intent, like lighting, or why was a color used here, or what was the modeler trying to do here, and really kind of looking at the overall presentation, not just was it a nice model, but why was it presented in this way? Why were the techniques employed that were employed, and what was the reason behind it?
Yeah.
And another thing that I was really, really impressed with, maybe to kind of build on that, and then Jim, maybe I'll bounce it back to you, is just the judging when you're looking to eliminate other models. And again, this may seem like I'm bashing, but I'm really not trying to bash another system so much as trying to highlight the differences. But I think the results tend to be different when it isn't a subtractive kind of a system, but rather more of a looking for the benefit of the doubt and looking to consider the presentation. I think that affects the results rather than focusing in on one tiny little area of the work, if that makes sense.
What do you think, Barry?
I think, yeah, absolutely. And I think that the way I see it is, instead of starting with the negative, you're starting with the positive. And you're of course going to notice problems and issues, but you have to weigh them all at the same time. And I think the results are probably, I think something that wins a gold at MMSI is probably likely to do well at IPMS, but that only tells part of the story, right? We know what the golds might do.
Yeah, well, we had what was the number? 55 gold medals?
Something
60,
like that, yeah.
60,
65, I think.
yeah. So let's say a third of those were historical figures. Only 3 would be honored at IPMS.
Right.
So which 3, that's crazy. And then you just begin looking for flaws to eliminate the other 27. This is not to say the judges aren't critical. One of the most famous names in the hobby, I was judging with him once, and me and the other judge of the 3 on the team were about to choose this one piece of 5 or 6 figures, and they were all done to the same standard. And the third judge said, "Wait a minute, look at that finger." Right? It was a pointing finger, right? And he said, "Okay, now imagine that figure picking his nose." And all of a sudden, we couldn't unsee that the hand and the finger in particular were 3 times larger than the scale of the piece. And then he said, "Look at this piece," and then of the 6 or 7 pieces in this display, there was a quieter piece, a less dramatic pose, a less vibrant colors, and that was by far the best piece. So this is your gold. Now, it may well have been that modeler was like, "I thought there were 2 other pieces in my display that were better." I put 2 boxes out in the historical open, and both Barry and I were convinced they were going to judge the other one, but the one that we didn't think they were going to judge, they gave a gold.
Which is good information in itself.
It's good
right?
information. I was glad that they honored the subtler piece, the one with 13 figures that took me 10 times as long to do. I don't know. If I'd only put that out, would it have been a silver, or was that a gold too? They just liked this other. I don't know. But I'll take it to MFCA and we'll see what they say. It's nice to be surprised. I was testing my own system that I now have to check. I think that's why you have people like Greg DeFranco who've been hasn't not won a gold medal for 30, 40 years, why they continue to enter. Because even they get something back. But that modeler who's never cracked a silver, who finally got a silver, being able to talk with Greg, I mean, he could have even talked to you. You were on that team, Scott. Being able to talk to the judges and see what he did right that elevated that piece. He's going to go to the next piece he paints at home and start there,
There's no question. I mean, we were talking about different mediums, acrylics versus oils and highlighting, techniques and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think we were talking before we started the recording, and I told you, I've been judging at model contests for probably 30 years, and this was without a doubt the most enjoyable experience that I've ever had. I certainly learned more than I have in a long time. And again, I'm not downing IPMS shows or anything. Those have enjoyable elements as well, but I really, really had a good time. I learned a lot, and, learning this new kind of approach and the value that it brings for modelers and everything was really enlightening. And so there was a lot of value for me in that, certainly.
Good.
I'm glad you said something about that, Jim, about which one of your pieces that was judged and awarded. I've only been to the one show, but I had that exact same experience in, I think, historical painters and fantasy painters.
Mm-hmm.
I had multiple things, and the one that they chose was not the one I would have chosen. Mm-hmm. And I'm like,
yep.
What about this one is the one that you wanted to? I don't know. I probably should have asked. That's what Barry told me.
Yeah, you should have had that conversation.
As a longtime IPMS guy, that's still new territory for us because.
Oh yeah,
that happens.
Not speak to the judges.
Yeah, I mean, it happens at IPMS shows, but in any show, I've never spoken to a judge. But in the future, I would like to know, what about that piece? Why did it get what it got, and why did you choose that one over the one I personally thought was better?
Yeah.
I know one of the shows, I don't think it was MMSI, but they tried for a few shows this thing where they let you put a sticker on the piece that you felt you wanted judged. Do you remember that, Jim?
Yeah, that was MFCA.
Was that MFCA? And it was, I think it didn't work out because they started to realize that it was actually useful to, you learned something when they picked the one you didn't think.
A lot of the judges that year, as I recall, were ignoring the dots because they were getting the marching orders from Philip Stearns, who ran this magazine campaigns, from Shep, from Dick Hebrides, right, from England. Is that how you say his name?
Herdes, I thought.
Herdes, I never met him. Was, honor the piece that's going to get the highest award. Honor the best of that. Why would you honor the worst? Just because the artist thinks so? Listen, 40 years as a music journalist and critic, artists often don't know what their best moment is.
Mm-hmm.
They really don't. How many times I've heard this was the B-side toss-off, and that's the one that becomes a top 10 single, which is not, the measure of success, how much it sold, but that's the one that everybody remembers. That's the one you have to play at the show. That's the one that influenced legions of other bands. We don't know crap about our own work. That's why we show it. That's one reason we show it.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and also I think it shows that no matter what system, 1, 2, 3, gold, silver, bronze, open, whatever, that there's always subjectivity. Somebody's work is going to appeal to Barry or look to Barry differently than it looks to me or TJ or you, Jim. So
when I teach reviewing the arts, Scott, to my college students, look, what I got from Ebert, what I got from the great critic Lester Bangs was it's 100% subjective. There's no such thing as objective criticism. We want your opinion. We want your honest opinion, and in two ways: your emotional reaction, how did this make you feel, and your intellectual analysis. What did this mean to you, right? For us, substitute intellectual analysis technique, right? It's what was the emotional impact for me, and judging the technique, how did they pull it off, right? That's what you're looking for. But all art is subjective, 100% inherently. And that's why even if we had 3 teams with 3 great judges, all look at a collection of great pieces. They may choose different pieces. They may give different awards, and it's not that it's arbitrary or just that it's screwed up in any way. It's like every human being's going to look at this painting differently. You know, if we had all had time, Scott, we could have traipsed down to the Art Institute and we could have stood in front of Edward Hopper's Nighthawks. All right. And the very color-oriented person's going to say, you know, this is a palette of like 4 colors, right? And the architecturally minded person is going to say, you know, what a weird shape in that famous diner, right? You know, and there's no door. You know, Hopper had a joke. You mean I forgot the door again, right? The historian is going to say, look at the only thing that's lit up is the inside of that diner. And then you realize you painted it in 41. The coasts of America's cities were blacked out at night because it wasn't clear whether the Japanese or the Germans could bomb the coasts of America, right? The feminist is going to say there's only one woman and she's dressed in red. And in one way or another, the 4 men in that diner all have their gaze fixed on her, right? The good old-fashioned Marxist is going to say, these people are in a diner, but they only have cups of coffee. They can't even afford a freaking cheeseburger, right? My point is, if there's 10 of us in front of Nighthawks, we are going to see 10 different paintings, right? Because we are 10 different people. And the joy of this business of judging or criticism is the conversation we can have, that I'll hear about the painting Barry saw and I'll hear about the painting TJ saw and you saw. And it's going to be different. And I learn more about the painting. I may think 1 or 2 of those theories is nuts, right? I may throw it out the window, but I'm going to learn more about the painting and I'm going to learn more about you, what you saw and what you valued. I think that's why if there's a problem in this world today, you know, it is not that there is too much passionate, in-depth conversation about art. So, you know, let's talk about Husted's freaking triplane for 3 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, as much as
those purple lozenge camouflage, yeah, you know.
Well, and as much as I enjoyed all the different aspects we've talked about, you know, standing there talking with Andy Golden about his diorama with the 1/16 scale Stug and hearing how he decided on the composition and the placement of the figures and which figures he sculpted and which figures he modified, you know, that for me is always any model show, you know, the real treat, you know, walking around the contest room and showing somebody Barry's box and, you know, kind of explaining what that piece does, the feelings that it makes you have, you know, and then hearing what inspires them, you know, having somebody see something, you know, Gary Baker, you know, he from California, you know, it's his first MMSI show and we were talking and he was really blown away by your Lancaster box and, you know, just those kind of conversations, that's a real treat. And that's what makes the travel and the time and everything worth it, is that inspiration and again, that collaboration, that C word.
Yeah. I would hope so. I hope, you know, I would hope everybody comes away from that show or the DC show TJ attended eager to hit the bench again, and not if they fell short of the medal or the prize they were hoping to get, that I'm just going to give this up. I don't know why I even try. That just breaks my heart, you know. Yeah. And we didn't have much of that this year, which is good.
You know, we talk about the awards and the judging a lot, and actually, truthfully, that's not the most important part of the show. It's part of it. And obviously for Jim especially, and then me as well, it's a big part of the MMSI show for us, but it really is only a part of the show, of any of the shows. And I think we need to keep that in perspective. And the highlights for me at any show haven't been medals I've won. It's much more subtle things and conversations with friends and meeting new people and talking about the work, like you said.
And nuns and little Italian Boy Scouts.
That's right.
Yeah, I had an interaction on Facebook a couple of days ago, and somebody said, "Yeah, I took this plane to a show, and I got second in a category of two models, you know, but I got a couple of compliments, so I guess that was okay." And I responded to him, and I said, "Look, 5 years from now, you're not going to remember what award you won, but you're going to remember that conversation that you had, those compliments that you received. You'll fondly remember that for the rest of your time as a model."
Yeah, that's right.
And pieces of advice, invaluable. Don't make the finger too big to stick in the figure's nose. I haven't done a figure since where I haven't been checking.
You guys, this has been a lot of fun. As we start to wrap up here, let's start with some social media links. So, Barry, for both MMSI as well as Small Subjects, if somebody wants more information on either of those, where can they find it?
So we have pages on a page on Facebook for each of those Small Subjects, of course, and then the MMSI Facebook page. Jim, you'll have to remind me. I think it's called MMSI.
Yeah, I think you just have to search MMSI and it pops up as a Facebook group.
If you search MMSI Chicago, that's what I always do, and then it'll always come up. Yeah.
And then, we have boxdioramas.com where we host the blog for the podcast and links to the podcast. And the MMSI has a website if you search MMSI Chicago. And there you can find my email and you can get the electronic Scabbard quarterly, 36 pages as a download, which is a really good way. The DC Club has a nice newsletter. I know, TJ, having gone to the show, you'll get it all the time.
Oh, I was already a member before
there
the show.
You go.
I just had never been to the show.
Yeah. But the membership is free. We figure, if this thing, we want to cast the net as wide as possible. If you come to the show, we'll get your money then. And I will add, it's $25 to enter as opposed to $90 freaking at Omaha. And I don't even have my plexiglass statue to prove it. It's Andy Golden Cat. Yeah. Oh man. 40 Shermans, right? And 1, 2, 3, and then the other guys go home with bupkis. Nothing. They got nothing.
Yeah, but I was one of those guys, so I'm not going to complain.
I know, but I feel for the other, it's like, why don't you make
it's not right.
More cheaper, smaller somethings? I don't know. I mean, it costs like $8 a medal, for the MMSI. That's with a box,
I saw the picture though. That's really slick. That's pretty cool with the little.
Yeah, but it's cheap as hell, shell. Really.
Yeah, but it's neat though.
I really thought those mystery award guys, what were they called, Barry? At IPMS? Yeah. I thought they did a better job. I really did.
Yeah.
The mystery modeler syndicate.
Yeah, they didn't honor me, but I don't care. The pieces I went around that I saw that they were honoring were, all right.
And they're highly appreciated too. I love to see the reaction of people when they get those.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I was standing, it was in the smaller the vendor rooms, the guy that sells all the tools. I can't remember what company that is. I was buying some subscribers.
Oh, M&M. Yeah.
Yes. And I was standing there. I was next in line.
ECM. UMM. Johnny Czech, we call him. He's from Czechoslovakia. Yeah.
I was standing in line. I was holding my scribers in my hand. There was a guy in front of me, and his buddy walks up to him and goes, "Hey, check this out. Look what I just got." I'm like, what does he have? And he's like, "Man, someone just put this next to my model." And the other guy's, then the UMM guy's like, "What is that?" He's like, "I don't know." Now all three of them are looking at it, and they're like, the one guy's like, "I think that whoever put this on there really liked my model." It's like, man, this is really cool. I don't even care about it. And hand to God said, "I don't even care if I get an award. This is the best. This is better than any award I would have got."
There you go.
That is pretty cool. I'm like, that dude had his whole weekend made.
That to me is much more in the spirit of how things should be. But what do I know? I've just declared, it really is hearing Shep. I mean, to think that he fought this fight in the 80s and they were ignoring Shep Payne, and here it is. We're still talking about it in 2022. It's just ridiculous, and we're just sniffing glue and building plastic or sculpting and it's like,
licking sculpting tools,
licking sculpting tools and dropping the X-Acto in my damn foot.
We'll have to send you a Tankcraft knife topper for your.
I got one now. And Barry turned me on to the X-Acto that tightens from the top, and those are sort of those don't roll off the table as easy.
Yeah. Well, to wrap up, I'd like to thank both of you for coming on the podcast and talking with us about Small Subjects and MMSI. And in that vein, I would imagine 2023 MMSI is already scheduled. We already talked about where listeners can find the show on the internet. Do you happen to know, I'm sure you do, what the dates are for next year?
We made up save the date cards, October 20th and 21st in Schaumburg again.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for joining us, and hope to speak to both of you guys in the near future.
Yeah, well, we're happy to. I'm glad that these moats are being crossed finally between plastic and figure and all this stuff. I mean, it was a dream Shep always had.
Yeah.
I think, in all seriousness, Barry and I often say, I think Shep would be proud of this. I think he'd be proud of the world of podcasting.
Appreciate you guys kind of hooking me up with this. I had an absolute blast. I'm planning on going back next year, and maybe
well, we owe you a lunch, so you got to come back so you can collect, Scott.
No,
I only threw you out of the judge's room once. I remember grumbling.
That's
at
true.
you.
Yes, that's true. And I do need to state for the record, the hospitality suite, at least on Friday night, fantastic. Wild and crazy, fantastic. Had a blast. So.
Just good times. Free
fun.
booze. Yeah. All right. Thank you for having us, guys.
Yeah,
thanks for having us on.
Success. Thanks, you guys.
You bet.
That was a lot of fun. MMSI was a fantastic event. I really had an amazing time. Hopefully, maybe next year we can get some of you guys out to MMSI. TJ, I know you've been to a figure show out in DC recently. But anyway, I really appreciate Jim and Barry taking the time to set that up for me and also taking the time to speak with TJ and I. We had a lot of fun discussing their podcast, their website, and of course, the MMSI show. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that discussion.
All right, it's time to send a shout out to the Posse Outriders, listeners who support the Posse by becoming Patreon contributors. If you would like to support the Triple P and become a Plastic Posse Outrider, go to our Patreon page, www.patreon.com/Plastic Posse Podcast, and set up a recurring donation there that helps us out to offset these costs to bring you the Triple P. There are 3 different types of tiers of support starting at just $1 a month.
Before we pay tribute to all of our fantastic Posse supporters, I wanted to single out a particular group of our deputy marshals. These are patrons that have been Posse supporters for a long time, and we really appreciate your stalwart support. So special Posse thanks goes out to Rick Cooper, Ethan Eidenmill, Bruce the Model Noob, Steve Baker, and Eric DeGleish. Moving on to the rest of our amazing deputy marshals, we have Joe Porcher, Bryce Lacaire, Graham Pearson, Patrick Brown, Steve Schaefer, Jay Kidd, Paul Burdett, Brandon Gentry, Robert Klein, Mark Ewing, Ted Kawahara, Josh Orr, John Bryan, Scale Model Hanger, Toadman, Model Doc, Doug Reed, Greg James, Les Workalla, B Colt 1911, John Everett, Josh Buck, Black Rifle Model Worx, Thomas Bannock, Mark Bradley, Zach Pease, Joel Munson, Eric Brubaker, Jeremy Moore, DB Scale Model Studio, Matt Johnston, Jared Cowell, Jeremy Elliott, Mike Talley, Previous Seat, Mediocre Middle-Aged Modeler, Dan Nofel, and JC Osborne. Man, guys, that list is getting long there. I'm going to hand this over to Ivan.
We also have some Posse foremen who have gone above and beyond by being long-time supporters. Would Rick Lewis, Eric Semmelmeyer, Mike Bird, Craig Jarbo, and Papa Steve Munsell all stand up for recognition. Well done and thank you, gentlemen. Next, we have our other excellent Posse foremen. Ben, Alex, Logan, Red Beach 1, MD Models, The Voice of Bob, JV, Victor, Pete, Toby, Matthew, Matters of Scale, Damien, Kieran, Cody, Libby, Papa Mike Charlie, Tim, Forest Ghost 73, Nukeman Mike, Greg, JAK, Jack, AK Armor, Ash, Irish Pat, Paul, iBones Models, Mr. Grizz, Jackson, Chris, Lee, Jamie, and Steve.
Last, we have our Posse Outriders, including Matthew, David, and 11 others. During the month of November, we'll be sending out Posse swag packs as a small token of our thanks to our deputy marshals and Posse foremen, who have been patrons for the longest time. Scott will be reaching out to confirm the addresses. Also, we'll officially release our new Posse merch on Black Friday. Stay tuned. We look forward to that very, very soon. A sincere yeehaw to all of our Posse supporters. You help make this and everything we do a reality. We are truly grateful.
Also, if you, as a listener, could do the Posse a favor, please consider posting a review of the Triple P on the podcast platform you use to listen to us and or even on Facebook. Each 5-star review will help other modelers find the Plastic Posse. But now it's time for our second roundtable discussion of the show. This one is about the upcoming Telford Scale Model World show. And that featured myself, JB, Graeme Pearson, Luke Carswell, Jackson Stanton, and me again. Enjoy.
All right, we are live. This is John from the Triple P calling in. We have 4 esteemed guest hosts as well today from the Black Rifle Model Worx community and some Triple P hosts as well. So today I have with me Sir Ivan Jensen-Taylor.
Hello.
Jackson from the U.S.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
And Luke from Black Rifle Model Worx, pardon me. And then Graeme as well. How are you all doing today?
Hello. Doing really good.
Good. Well, we are certainly excited to have you. This is certainly going to be a great conversation around scale model world, everything Telford. I've never been. Jackson's never been. The hype is real. We're super excited to meet not only you, but the other folks going to the show. Cannot wait to get into it. Ivan has told us a lot about it. We hope he doesn't disappoint us. He never does. But before we really jump into it, I think it'd be important to kind of get to know, Jackson, Luke, and Graeme. They've been on the pod before at one time or another, or they've been mentioned, but I'd love to, have them introduce themselves, give a little background of, their modeling interests, why they're going to Telford, and then we'll jump really right into the discussion around the show itself. What can we expect? What we're looking forward to? And with that, I'll kick it over to Jackson.
Hey, how's it going? So, I'm a 22-year-old armor modeler. That's my main thing. I do a lot of 3D work, CAD, 3D printing, and whatnot. I love my Shermans. That's kind of what I'm known for in our little friend group. And then outside of modeling, I volunteer at a local tank museum as well as a mechanic. So I get to do some hands-on with some of the vehicles and whatnot as well.
Super cool. That is awesome. Yep. Super jelly. Luke, I'll kick it over to you. I think you're the founder of Black Rifle Model Worx. Maybe talk a little bit of that as well.
Well, thank you. That's a very grand title. So I'm a little different, I guess, to a lot of people in the hobby. I didn't do it in my younger years at all. So I've been modeling now for probably about 7 years, bordering on 8 years, predominantly armor. Although I will build pretty much everything. You can see behind me there's a full-size gaming table. Last sort of 2 years probably, got into 40k, and fell down that rabbit hole. The Black Rifle Model Worx thing, it started as a YouTube channel, essentially, badly. And it was just a way of me kind of documenting my modeling journey. That's kind of how that came about. And it's grown legs. So now, fairly recently, in the last 3 months, we now have a Facebook group. So the channel's still there. And yeah, it is going from strength to strength. I'm also an ambassador for Models for Heroes here in the UK. So without going into massive detail, the reason I started modeling is because I left the military after a long time, and just struggled with being a civilian and found modeling before I knew about Models for Heroes. And obviously that's grown, and now I'm an ambassador for them and the benefits of the hobby to veterans, first responders, that sort of stuff. And I am a first responder here in the UK. I'm a paramedic. That's me in a nutshell.
That's a fantastic story. And I'd love to, pull on the Models for Heroes more as we talk about Telford and maybe what efforts at the show are done through that charity, and then how our listeners can support not only at the event, but then additionally outside of the event, what's that avenue? How can we support in any way, shape, or form, whether it's monetary donations or even donations of kits themselves?
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be fantastic. And
yeah,
the last person I'd love to introduce is Graeme, a constant fixture that I've admired for a long time. Your work is fantastic, certainly inspirational, and then a key component of the Black Rifle Model Worx community as well. So Graeme, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wow. Every time anybody says that, I'm like, I just chuck paint on bits of plastic. Thank you. I build mainly aircraft and armour. I've dabbled in cars a little bit, but predominantly aircraft and armour now, and I'll flip between the two, depending on what takes me fancy. I'm not really have any preference. And I've been modelling for about the same as Luke, about 6 or 7 years now, I think, something like that. Met Ivan pretty much just after I got into the hobby. through Facebook, and we've been friends ever since, and it's lovely. So I've obviously been around people who've been able to, give me good guidance and instruction, really, and which has definitely helped me a hell of a lot over the years. I have a big shed in my garden where I hide away from the family and stuff, and this happened within 6 months of me starting the hobby. I was on a little table in the guest room, and within 6 months I had a 12-foot by 10-foot shed in my garden, fully kitted out with everything in. I kind of fell down a bit of a rabbit hole. I volunteer for Models for Heroes as well as Luke's an ambassador. I'm one of the volunteers. I've run 2 groups now. I'm not currently running one, but it's a very rewarding thing to do. Just helping people who, I saw it for myself. I had anxiety, or still have anxiety and depression myself. And I found one of the reasons I got so heavily into modeling was because it was helping me. So as soon as I became aware of Models for Heroes, technically I'm a veteran. I never saw theatre, so I don't consider myself as a veteran, but I'm ex-military.
You are a veteran.
So I couldn't wait to help out. And yeah, it's a very rewarding thing to do. It's something I love to fly the flag for. It's great.
That's awesome. Again, a wonderful story. And I want to highlight to our listeners before we really jump into the show, again, mentioning the Black Rifle Model Worx community. I look at it very similar to the Triple P. You have an ethos around, the group, what you look to promote, happiness, building for yourself, sharing, community, social, all those things are really key tenets of the group that I see a lot of similarities with the Plastic Posse and its extension into the UK. So it's a really cool group. I would encourage all of our listeners, not only live today, but if you're listening on the pod when this drops, please check out their Facebook group, their YouTube channel, submit a subscribe button, click that like, and also request to join. I think you'll find a lot of people very similar to the Plastic Posse, their approach to the hobby, their approach to life. And everybody, it goes back to what you both said around the community supporting each other and, acknowledging that sometimes life gets tough, and it's good to have people, that have went through it and are experiencing it to share those moments and come out, ahead. And I think that's what your community certainly does. So it's awesome to finally get us together.
Yeah, without a doubt.
There's a great correlation. I know when I did the interview for the Triple P with Ivan and Scott, it was one of the things that we did talk about was the encouragement of other people into the hobby and helping them to develop without putting them down or criticizing unnecessarily and that kind of thing. And it's a good place to be if you're in that sort of environment and everybody's on the same page, just exactly like you guys are doing on the Triple P as well. And it's something that, when Luke asked me to get involved, I couldn't say no, really. It's right up my alley.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think I fell down the Warhammer hole a couple of years ago. And then at the start of this year, I was massively losing my mojo for scale modeling. Because 40K, if you're playing it as well, it does sort of take over your life to a point. And I got involved in the 48-hour group build, that you guys got involved in the US from the Triple P. And the way the Triple P portray the hobby and the positivity around the hobby is what drew me back in to the scale modeling and, rejuvenated the mojo for it, really. So when we started the Black Rifle Model Worx group, we very much wanted to go down that line of positivity, encouragement. Every genre is welcome. And it was not copying, but mirroring the ethos of the Triple P in being such a positive community. And it's working, So, yeah, thanks to you guys for that. Because without that, I probably wouldn't be sat here anymore. So.
Well, yeah, we're happy to have you. And, along with that community and happiness, we're going to bring along the hype. And the hype about this live session is all about Scale Model World. I've never been. Jackson's never been. So, Ivan, maybe to kick us off, just give a basic description of the dates and then some of the high-level details. And I'd encourage Luke and Graeme to chime in. And I know myself and Jackson will chime in with questions as well as we go through this overview.
I'm really worried now that I've massively oversold how good this show is. But yeah, it can't be oversold. I was worried the first time I went that it's like, it's I'm getting told it's this and that, but at the end of the day, it's just a model show. The second you walk in, it's like, whoa, this is big. This is like, it's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it's the UK's biggest model show, arguably the biggest model show in the world. It's at the Telford International Centre on the 12th and 13th of November. You've got Saturday, Sunday, set up on Friday. They like to get that the day early, so it can be full steam ahead Saturday. Nothing needs setting up. You go in, you have fun. IPMS members get in for free. If you're not an IPMS member, you have to pre-register, buy a ticket for the days you want to attend. This is new, that they're not doing any on-the-door purchasing. You can't just turn up on the day and be like, hi, can I come in? But yeah, that's what it is. It's just everything that is modelling is at that show. That bit I don't think I can undersell. Everything is there. And it's I said this on the live stream we did on Friday. When you compare it to the US show, you've got vendors, you've got a massive competition hall, really cool. But this show has everything. Clubs, displays, competition, demonstrations, traders, as well as companies go in there just to show new products without actually selling anything. Everything is there. And I can't get that across enough. You'll be, the first time you go, John, Jack, you are going to be so blown away. You're going to be like, whoa. It's going to take you a bit to chill and get it into your system. There's borderline too much to do for the 2 days. And I've heard this a few times. Nats could be 1 day shorter. Telford should be 1 day longer. There's so much at Telford. Luke, Graeme, you've been quite a few times now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was it like the first time you went?
The first time I went to Telford, I went by myself because I was new in the hobby. Mm-hmm. You join the Facebook groups and all that stuff and watch from YouTube, and everyone was talking about Scale Model World in Telford. Well, I only live less than an hour from Telford itself. So I was like, I'll go on the Saturday and see what it's all about. And you're absolutely right. You walk in there, and bearing in mind, I was new in the hobby. So my experience of model shows was virtually zero. And I walked in there and it's just huge. And it blew my mind. And I was only supposed to be there on the Saturday. But you're absolutely right. There's so much to see, so much going on. I went back on the Sunday, and I've been, barring obviously the last couple of years because no one's been able to go anywhere. But other than that, I've been every single year. But I definitely think this year will be the best year yet, because now it's more of a social thing as well. And that's key to me in the hobby. But yeah, it's mind blowing. It is mind blowing. There's so much there. So much there.
Yeah, I think I went in. If the first year I went I wasn't actually working with anybody, but I managed to acquire a trader's wristband. So I walked in at, well before anybody else was in there, 8 a.m., something like that. So it's still quite empty. And I think when there's no bodies in that hall and it's just all the tables laid out ready for it all to start, you really do get an appreciation of the vastness of the place. It's massive. And I can remember just walking in. I was next to Ivan, and I could tell what he was doing. He just walked beside me. He was just watching me, expression on my face, and my jaw just dropped. And he went, "It's impressive, isn't it?" Whiz. Yeah. And then it was just 2 days of just non-stop. It's so busy. There's so much going on. And what I like certainly as I've gone in more recent years, as I was further into the hobby, especially with doing stuff on YouTube and that, you find yourself walking around and sort of every 10 minutes, somebody's tapping you on the shoulder. Hey, mate, I haven't seen you and literally bumping into people who haven't seen for a year. And that's the only time you'll ever get to see them face to face, but you know them through Facebook or whatever. And it does become a sort of a meet and greet social sort of thing. And then if you can go with a group of friends as well, it's just even better because, yeah, not only are you taking in all the modelling goodness, but you're having a bit of a giraffe as you're going around as well.
I mean, John and Jackson, this one's for you. Of all the pictures or footage or YouTube videos that I've sent you of me going to Hogwarts you've seen, what impression have you got of the show? Because whatever that is, it still can't prepare you for the scale of it.
I'm going to be honest. I don't remember anything from that video you sent me. I'm going in completely blind, and I'm excited. So I don't have any expectations other than I know that, like, since I started modeling, it's always kind of been in my head as like this mecca of modeling shows. You know, I was blown away by Nats. That was my first time going to IPMS Nationals, and I'm even more excited to see something even bigger because from what I understand it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so no expectations, but I know I'll be blown away.
It's a good way of doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, I don't think I have any expectations either, but I've certainly, you know, dare I say, done the research. A lot of friends have gone there. My club back in Pittsburgh, before I moved, they would go every other year. And hearing the stories, seeing the videos, I think one of the things that stands out most to me is that catwalk area above the hall. And I remember seeing your video, and then there was another YouTuber that did, you know, an overview from up there, and it just sets the scene at the scale of the event. And I remember I'm like, one day I'm going to stand up there and I'm going to take a video and I'm going to take a picture and, you know, be a part of that experience where I look around. And maybe one thing that I think, obviously I'll compare it to the IPMS Nationals because that's the only thing I know. But one of the things I think that stood out to me as opposed to the IPMS, it looks jam-packed. It looks more congested. It looks like there's more people. There's more types of things. So at the IPMS Nationals, I think of two major things: contest room, vendor hall. But at Telford, it's much more than that, I think. At least from the outside looking in, you have your SIGs, you have the trader hall, you have the small contest room, but it looks like within like the SIGs and other areas, there's almost pockets of different communities. I've heard stories of stopping by the check table and getting a drink or hanging out with them. And, you know, all those little micro kind of conversations. I don't necessarily know that they're present at the IPMS Nationals because the vibe is different. It's almost transactional in the vendor hall, where I see that type of, you know, social engagement area enabled by the SIGs as something that's completely different. And I'm looking forward to. I just want to walk around, see the work on the table, talk to everybody. Like you said, I want to meet literally everyone. I want to understand, you know, everything about the show. And I have plenty of money to take, so I'm fully expecting that I'll spend that as well, but I won't pull an Ivan. I'm going to stick to smaller items that can fit in a luggage bag that I can get through the airport. But, you know, long answer short, my expectations, I don't know if you can, I know it's going to be a great time. Bottom line, you know, I'm not going to be disappointed.
One of the good things is the way it's laid out as well. The traders aren't separate from the clubs and SIGs. So the trading stands will be on one side and then on the other. To get between them, you're walking down aisles with clubs and SIGs on both sides of you. So you can walk down to one trader, have a look, and then walk back and come up the other way because you tend to flow around. So you can't help but go and look at the models that are on display because you're walking past them. And a lot of the time, because it is busy, you can't walk quickly because you're in a queue anyway. So you're just almost forced, if you like, to look at it and to pay attention. And stopping and taking time to appreciate what people have done is not a chore. It's kind of, it just happens with the flow. It works really, really well. It's such a good do. That catwalk you mentioned, incidentally, when that comes into its prime for me is at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning when they play the last post for Remembrance Day. And that's, awesome.
Yeah, it's a special moment. And I've said this to both John and Jackson. I can't wait for them to experience that and be there in person because I'll admit it, and I think most people admit it, you think it won't get you, but when you're there, it's hustle and bustle, conversation everywhere, and a bang, silence. It's a special moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll admit it. There'll be a tear coming from my eye. I know there will.
Yeah, I blub every year. I won't worry about that.
Yeah,
every year. But yeah, there's thousands of people, and they just stop. So they'll be in the middle of a vendor stand or wherever they are within those halls, and everyone just stops. for 2 minutes. It's just, unbelievable.
Yeah, that, experiences like that and having them, really impactful. It's just something you can't find anywhere else. It's something that is, truly unbelievable. And, I just saw in the chat, John Tapsell posted like 10,000 attendees over the 2 days. That's astounding. For reference, the IPMS Nationals, it probably draws anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000. And 3,000 is a big number. And 2,000 includes not only the registrants, but general admission. When I see numbers of 10,000, that's astonishing to me. And to see that type of health in the hobby. And then also you think about that many people, but then somber moments like that where everybody, locks in and shows a sign of respect is really exemplifies the community, I think, itself as well. And I just can't wait for every second of it. And even on Friday, I think maybe we're going to get exposed Friday, Ivan, if Cosford doesn't work out, but I'm ready, man. Every piece of it.
Yeah. I think us guys, when I think, I know I went with Graeme. Luke, you went 2019 as well. We were borderline saying it was too busy, which is a good thing. But it was
packed.
Extraordinarily busy. Like you couldn't. There was many aisles you couldn't get down.
Yeah,
too many people. Yeah. It was heaving, but that's a good thing. It shows that this hobby ain't dying.
So with, question from my perspective, Ivan, we talk about, Graeme had mentioned the Traders Hall, the SIGs, there's also the competition aspect, and that's smaller. Can you maybe talk a little bit about where that is, the size, and then I'd love to know what, Luke and Graeme and Jackson are going to bring to the show.
Yeah. So the competition last year with one of the halls closed off, it was in the hall with traders and SIGs. Usually it's upstairs in the mezzanine level, very private. It's quite a nice place to have it because it's out the way. But I'm not gonna lie, last year when it was downstairs in the halls where everyone was, I actually preferred it. There was really good lighting. It was an open space. It worked really well. But I think this year again, it's back upstairs in the mezzanine. I find upstairs it's a little bit cramped, but it's competition. It's not going to be too busy. They close it off for judging. They close it off for media. They make sure you don't take any rucksacks or bags in there because there've been incidents before with people being like, "Oh, sorry," and then you've just destroyed someone's work they've been working on for 5 years. Competition. It's a cool thing. I like it. Some people don't. I know we discussed this the other day. It's it's a 1-2-3 system. Yeah, but it's good. If you like competitions, it's a good competition to be in because it's such a diverse competition. There are a billion different categories, and everything that's in that competition deserves to be there. The standard of work is absolutely incredible. I know, Graeme, competitions aren't your thing. No intention. Luke, I know you're entering this year, as am I.
I think we're entering the same category.
Yeah, we're going to be. It's me versus you.
Pretty much.
Because, that's what you get with it. 1-2-3. I know JB Jackson. Are you going to enter because you got till the 8th of November to enter?
Yeah, so I'm entering a few things. I must admit I'm very nervous about flying with models because I've never done that before. But depending on how much I can fit in, I know I'm definitely going to be bringing my Tadpole and my Tiger that I did pretty recently. So I'll have both of those. And I'm currently working on finishing up my Samoa for the buddy build JB and I and a few other friends have been doing. So assuming I can finish that in the next 2 weeks, that'll be there too. And then whatever else I have room for.
Awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I plan on bringing a few things for the comp. I'm not sure what yet. I have traveled with models on an airplane before, so it's pretty simple when you have armor, but I'll be bringing a few models to support the SIG. So 109 in Spanish Civil War. So I have a Brita and a Mini 109 to bring over to support that, but also for the comp, definitely going to bring the Panzer Gray #blue Samoa. So be sure to look. you want it? You can take it home with you.
It's beautiful, that, honestly.
You can take it home. Ivan already asked, but if you want it, Graeme, you can take it home with you.
Man, I'm not with you. No, Ivan can take that. He's
he don't like it that much.
No, I do.
Oh. So I hope to get that done, and then there's a few other things I hope to bring too. So and really, I'm bringing it to, the comp is a way to display your work, but I really value the SIGs, and what I hope to do is to connect with some of the SIGs that I have an interest in, so the next time I come to Telford, I can support them. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. And, Ivan, I'd go back to your comment. Graeme, you might not be entering the comp, but are you bringing work to the show that we can see?
No, not this year. I did a couple of years ago, but no, I'm not taking anything down this year. Partly because I'm too lazy to put it into boxes and make sure it doesn't get broken, if I'm quite honest. But no, I only brought one thing a couple of years ago, and that was only because basically I was ordered to, in a nice way. But, no, it's not really my thing. I'm never that convinced my work's good enough to show, to be quite honest.
Oh, come on!
I know, and that's not me fishing for compliments. I genuinely just think, oh no, it's no point. But then again, having said that, if the judging was slightly different, tempted. But
I just have to point out, John has just put in the chat, the competition will be in Hall 3 this year, so it's not in the mezzanine. Halls 1 and 2 are a mix of trade and clubs, whilst Hall 3 is non-trade and just displays.
Cool.
Yeah, the competition will be in one of the halls again, which is really cool. I like that.
Yeah, the lighting should be there.
Yeah, well, very much so.
Yeah.
I suppose because Edward aren't going, are they, this year?
Nah.
And they usually take quite a bit of real estate with their stands.
Oh,
so
they've got a big footprint.
Sort of space by the time a few vendors don't come. Will be a vast area left over there, I reckon. So,
yeah.
Okay.
I don't think they're coming because Ivan bought their entire stock.
They have nothing left.
National.
Yeah.
He was like a great white shark hunting seals there for crying out loud.
I was pacing for like 4 hours.
There's marks in the carpet. They have to replace it in the hall. So
I mean, I did speak to Jan from Edward, and he just said it's not in the books. Too much paperwork, and it costs more to get all that stock to England than it does to America. It is what it is. It's a shame they're not going to be there because they always have a really good presence and a really good stand, but.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
So real quick, I'd love to circle back. Luke, if you could talk about maybe what you're bringing to the show. I look forward to seeing your work and can't wait to hear what you're going to bring.
Yeah, well, don't look forward to it too much.
Oh.
It will be disappointing. So, as I said about the Warhammer stuff and the 40k stuff, so at the start of this year, I entered a couple of 40k pieces into a very Warhammer-esque competition. They did quite well. So I'm bringing those with me because almost as a bit of an experiment to see how the IPMS judges receive those as opposed to the traditional scale model. Essentially, I don't expect them to do anything because it's something that perhaps is a little bit left of field for an IPMS competition. I'm also bringing an ICM 35th Chernobyl fire truck, and I'm bringing, I think, the 48 scale new Tamiya Challenger 2,
Nice.
and a couple of Rubicon models. So,
nice. Those are nice.
Yeah, they're really cool. I love them. So I've got a bit of a deal with Steve Perry, who is Rubicon UK essentially. So Stoke-on-Trent IPMS Club, they have a Rubicon SIG that they go around all the shows in the UK with. So any Rubicon kit I build goes to that SIG, and Steve supplies the kits to me.
Cool.
To build for that SIG because he uses that SIG because he's unable to get around all the shows, logistically. He uses that SIG as a bit of an advertisement to try and encourage modelers to build Rubicon rather than just gamers. Because they lend themselves to it, really. So there'll be a couple of those, a Crusader and a IDF Centurion.
Nice.
So that's what I'm bringing.
Having said that, next year, I'll be bringing some stuff to the show. Definitely next year, because I'll have somewhere to put it, won't I, Luke?
You will indeed. So, yeah, next year, Black Rifle Model Worx community group will have a stand at Telford next year, a club stand essentially. So we were fortunate enough to be accepted by IPMS UK as a club, even though we don't have a physical venue. We're very much online, which enables us next year to have a stand at Telford, so the community group members can bring their work, and potentially, if they're not confident to put it on a competition table, but they want to show their work, then that's the place that we're going to do it. You'll be able to display it all weekend on the stand. Yeah.
And we're gonna borrow a Jackson smoke machine. We're gonna have neon lights. It's
fancy dress.
I think something occurred to me on Friday night on our live show that we may be the first ever virtual IPMS club.
Love it.
I don't think I know of any others.
I don't think we're the first worldwide, but I certainly think to have a display stand at Telford, we will be the first virtual club to do that.
Mm.
Unless someone steals our thunder in the next 12 months, maybe.
I think as more people get into the sort of what we're doing here, video chatting over Zoom or StreamYard, whatever, I think it'll become more of a thing. Because in many ways it works better than a physical club, doesn't it? Because you don't have to, worry about showering and things like that before you go and sit next to somebody in a cold, dusty church hall every Wednesday night. You can do it every night from the comfort of your shed. It's lovely.
Yeah, and it's something we touched on Friday. So, for example, the five of us sat here talking about the hobby and everything else. If we were part of a physical club, a local club, and that was it, well, I'd be talking to people that live within an hour of me. Now I'm talking to guys that are in the States. We talk to guys in Australia. We talk all over the world, and that can only be a positive thing. It can only be a positive thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree 100%, and I think that's an opportunity for IPMS in general is to embrace the online club, because it's something that you can't find in a local club. It's crazy. I mentioned to people, I'm going to the UK. My friend's going to pick me up. Oh, how do you know him? Well, I met him on the internet. Shout out to John Bryan for hooking Jackson up for a ride. But it's a community, at least with scale modeling, that I've found that I don't think you could find. It's very difficult to meet people, especially around the world, especially with similar interests and a similar person, to be that, quite frank. I consider all of you friends, and we've only talked digitally, whether it's through text or even seeing each other on Zoom. And, I think it's an excellent opportunity for IPMS to leverage. And it's also awesome that they're giving you the opportunity to have a table. And I have a question around that table. Is that something that IPMS provides to you? Do you have to pay for it? How does that work? Because I have no idea for SIGs.
So for traders and vendors, obviously there is a fee, which is quite expensive. For the SIGs and clubs, there is a nominal charge, but it's pennies really. Yeah. For essentially a 6 foot by 4 foot table. If you want more real estate, if you want power, then there is an additional charge on top of that. But again, I would imagine now, due to the state of the world, the power thing will be quite expensive. Yeah. However, for real estate, for your stand, it's not expensive. It's pennies, really.
That's awesome.
And as long as you are registered with the IPMS, they will accept them. So yeah, it can only be a good thing. It's not expensive for clubs.
That's a great enabler. I want to take a step back. We had a question in the chat. I think it'd be great to acknowledge, and anyone's welcome to take it. For those who are not informed around what a SIG is, Ivan, could you define what a SIG is for our listeners?
Yes, it's a special interest group. So it's basically a very specific subject that a displayer or group will build. For example, there's a Spitfire SIG. All they will do is Spitfires. Like John said in the chat, there's a SIG for 144. They'll build everything as long as it's 1/44th scale. So rather than just being a group for models, they are very specific models. And that's all it is, really. It's just a specialized subject, which the SIG owners or the people who run it will have a really strong passion in, whether that be 109s, Sherman tanks, like we did. Practically what we did for Nats was a SIG. It was a M3, M4 SIG. So yes, it's a very specialist subject. And they're really cool because when you go around the table and see 50 Spitfires and every single one looks different, it's really impressive. So I really love the SIGs.
That's awesome. And one of the other things you mentioned, Ivan, for the show was seminars. Is that a thing as well at the show?
Yes, I believe this year there are 4 seminars, speeches, demonstrations. I think this is, you'll have to forgive me for this one if I'm wrong. I think there's 2 on each day. I'm sure John will correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, we have seminars. They're very different than they are in the US. I've noticed.
The presenters turn up on time, John.
Oh, well,
that was shady. Although true.
He was too busy trying to, weasel his way into Cabela's back room and touch everything.
Oh, the British guy's back.
3-4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've forgotten what I was talking about. Seminars. Yeah, there are seminars at this show. There are 4 of them right now.
They're very different.
Yeah, they're very different. And I've noticed the way they're done at the US show, they're pushed heavy. Very encouraged to attend. And I'm not saying that's not the case here, but I only realized this week that what was going on and what the demonstrations were and about them. So, yeah, there are seminars and such at Telford. If you can find time out of the day to attend, that's brilliant. But sometimes, because Telford, the show is so busy, you do forget. You lose track of time so quickly.
Yeah, the day goes real quick.
Yeah.
So, talking about the day, what time does the show end?
On Saturday, it's 6 p.m. On Sunday, 4 p.m. And they want everyone out by 5, I think, or they want it all stripped down and basically as soon as possible on Sunday. The sooner they can hand the keys back, I believe, the better for them. But yeah, it's traders, media pass holders, whatever, 8 till 6 on Saturday, IPMS members 9 till 6 on Saturday, and general public with tickets 10 till 6 on Saturday. And those times are the same for Sunday, but obviously just ending at 4.
Sounds like Saturday's going to be a long day.
Saturday's a very long day. Your feet will be killing. Your legs will be knackered. But it's a good pain. It's worth it.
Yeah. And then Saturday night, we have plans. I think we're all doing dinner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we're having dinner every night for 7 days as well.
Oh yeah,
I can't wait. So many dinner dates.
So many selfies. Well, every time you go to a show every week, you take a picture of the food and send it me. So we'll be doing that.
Payback for Scott.
Yes. So yeah, we've all got dinner planned for Friday night. TGI Fridays, getting you some traditional British food. We've got, I believe, Hungry Horse for Saturday.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're doing Sunday because that's when we all shoot shit down to Bovington.
You know what I want to do on Sunday?
Yes,
what I want to do.
Graham's got a very traditional plan.
Where we're staying is a very picturesque harbour town on the south coast of England where the hotel is we booked. And of course, it's traditional to eat fish and chips from the paper in Britain. So that's what we're going to do, sitting on the harbour wall. And it's all lit up at night. It's beautiful. It's really nice. It'll be bloody cold, but it'll be nice.
Yeah. And I'm going to make Jackson eat the fish. He's not just having chips.
I don't like seafood. I'm going to eat chips with salt and vinegar, or vinegar on it, and I'll be good.
You can
mushy
have
peas.
Pucker pie.
Nope.
Pucker pie, yeah.
We'll stop by McDonald's and get him some nuggies.
Yeah.
He'll be happy
Nuggets and fries, please.
Get him some tendies.
Oh, man.
Just bring some frozen dino nuggies and ask them to deep fry them.
My tater tots. I need to bring them.
So I actually have a question going back to the show. When I think about the vendor hall, I have no idea what to buy because I think it's going to be a demographic of vendors that probably I haven't seen a lot of what they had. Is there anything on, each of your lists that you're looking out for? And maybe we'll start with for Graeme.
Not really, not this year. I'm going with a completely open mind and a full wallet, but just a completely open mind.
Humble brag.
Yeah, full's relative though, Ivan.
I'm so rich.
We're not all English upper class royalty like yourself, Sir Ivan. I'm not really a big person for buying kits. I tend to like buying tools and paint more. Although I'm very tempted to pull the trigger on a PS770 airbrush.
Nice.
Very tempted, but we'll see.
Very nice. Luke, how about yourself?
Similar. I tend to use shows because you will get tools and products that are difficult to come by elsewhere. So they will catch my eye and I'll obviously pull the trigger on those. Kit-wise, depending on the price. So I think there's a misconception that people get a really good deal at Telford.
Yep.
It's not always the case. It's not the sale of the century as far as the vendors go. But if I can get them at a good price, the new Tamiya F-35, Tamiya Comet, and the Italieri 32nd GR4.
Yeah, I'm tempted by that as well, actually. I'm very tempted to see if I can get one of those. And I need a T55 as well.
Yeah. But yeah, tools, and there's always something that catches your eye.
Yep.
That you have no sort of preconception that you would go in looking for that. And then you're like, yeah, bang. Oh, I'll take it.
Nice.
The benefit of the show, I guess.
So, Graeme, question: what scale T55?
35th.
I have one. I'll bring it. You can have it.
See, this is the type of guy John is. It's aggressive generosity.
You can have it. I'll bring it. Don't buy it unless you want a mini art one.
Well, no, that's what I was just going to say. It's not a mini art full interior kit because. No,
I have a Tamiya one. It's yours if you want it.
Wow, that's very kind of you. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't have any particular kit in mind, but it definitely won't be a full interior mini art. Not again. No, I couldn't go through that pain again. It was painful last time. I'm actually building a mini art kit at the minute, just a simple checkpoint, and even that, the parts count is just ridiculous. There's a little tiny telephone, and it was 4 parts with massive sprue gates, and it's like, why? No, but it is nice. Yeah, thank you, John.
I'll grab it from the stash right after this recording.
Wow,
it's in the box.
Look at that grin.
I'm glad I came now.
Oh man! So Jackson, what about you? What do you want? What does the Sherman Master want?
It's actually nothing to do with Shermans,
Ooh,
and both of the kits that I'm coming for are fundamentally British, and I promise it's entirely coincidental. So Mini Arts London Type Bus, or B-Type Bus, the 1919 version, that kit is insanely expensive over here. As long as I can find it under like whatever it is over here, I'll be buying that and finding a way to fit it in my suitcase. The other one is way long ago, Airfix put out a Doctor Who TARDIS kit that I've also been looking for forever, and they don't have that pretty much anywhere over here. So I'm hoping, because Airfix is a bit bigger over there, and I guess so is Doctor Who in some ways, hoping I'll find that there. Other than that, I'm looking for a out-of-production Edward photo etch kit for the M151 Mutt. And then I'm also ordering some stuff through some UK retailers that actually bring them to the show. Yeah. And that might be something Ivan wants to explain too, because I didn't know about that, and I think it's awesome.
There's a great opportunity for out of production kits as well, because there are a couple of vendors there who literally have had the same stuff in the back of their van for decades. Yeah, and they keep turning it out. And if you were rummage through that, you find some little gems hidden away in there.
That's exactly what Ivan told me.
You'll have fun in there.
Oh yeah.
So Ivan, your list is long and distinguished. What's on it?
Well, I had no intention of buying anything at NAS.
Oh, okay.
So
why?
How did that work out for you?
Expensive. Well, that's
still paying for it.
Yeah, I was saying to Jackson, I was like, I don't know if I should buy nothing at Telford and just do a big online order when I get back. And he said, why not do both? I thought, great idea. So at Telford, I'm on a World War One hunt. I really want some World War One resin figures. Basically anything World War One that is remotely interesting. Our friend Zach recently did one of those resin field guns. Looks really cool. So anything World War One, I'm going to try and look for. I do really want figures. I know the Stalingrad figures are now out of production and getting really hard to find over here, but I'd like to think someone at the show will have them. Apart from that, kits, all the kits that I want, I don't think are even out yet. So yeah, supplies. I want some new sprue cutters, paints, glues, things like that. Telford's always the show. I think we've all said it. It's the good resupply shows to get your thinners, your primers, paints like that. You go there, you buy that stuff. That's like a staple of your purchase. But apart from that, there's no real kits. All the kits I'm bringing, I'm swapping with these guys. Like I'm bringing a lot of plastic to the show just to get rid of.
We always have a bit of a swap fest, don't we? Mr. Hobby leveling, Mr. Servicer, mahogany. I need to try this mahogany because everybody's raving about it for armor. I need to give it a try.
I don't like it and I've never tried it, but I say that to wind the Americans up.
Don't listen to him. It's really good. You gotta
this is
try
why
it.
we don't let him outside.
Yeah.
It's just a fad. Vallejo Prime is better.
So we're going to disinvite him from the group while we're there. We'll still take his reservations, but he can go someplace else. But the mahogany is great, and then also the black is really good too.
Yeah, I use the black all the time.
Yeah,
I've got 2 bottles with just dregs in at the minute because it's hard to get at the minute. So I'm hoping to catch up with that. But I definitely want to try that mahogany. It looks good.
Yeah, if you need some black, Graeme, my local store has just had a resupply of the black 1500. So
right.
I'll get some for you this week.
If I can't pick any up, I'll definitely take you up on that.
Yeah, I'll bring it anyway.
What's his name? Yeah.
I also just want to give a quick shout out because TJ called me out. TJ's a very good World War One figure painter. He's very good. He won't admit it. There you are.
That one he's doing, or maybe just finished now, hasn't he? That is just beautiful.
The Austro-Hungarian he did was incredible.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. Ivan's okay too at figures. I mean, he's only a national award winner.
That was a default win.
Oh man. So, I think we've talked about the show a good amount. Let's fast forward to Sunday afternoon. What time do you think we'll start to close up shop and get on the road to head south to eat some fish and chips, which Jackson will eat and will enjoy?
I mean, I think so. It's going to sound like nothing for you guys in the US, but to travel from Telford down to Dorset, we're probably looking at 3.5 hours, maybe.
Yeah,
but UK roads are not good, so they're just not. It's a nightmare to get anywhere. So I think really we want to be kind of leaving no later than sort of 4:30 so that we can get there, get checked into the hotel, get dinner and all that stuff. Because if we leave it much later, because of where we're going to, everything closes. So
Sunday, I forgot, yeah.
We'll be having a pot noodle in the hotel room.
Hey, that's a British traditional slice of bread and a pot noodle. Good night.
So yeah, maybe sort of 4:30, we need to be sort of thinking about getting on the road.
Nice. And then Monday we wake up and head over to Bovington, which will not disappoint. And Ivan's never been there.
I can't believe that, Ivan.
I haven't been since I was 13, which is lots of years ago.
But you've been there.
Yeah.
I just can't get my head around it. You've never been.
I don't travel internally.
Oh my God.
Sounds disturbing in a way.
England, I don't carry cash or take public transport.
Well, that is true.
Yeah.
He only drinks Fanta, nothing from a spigot.
The kind of sense of awe that JB and Jack's are going to feel when they walk into Telford for the first time. I absolutely guarantee you will feel that when you walk into Bovington for the first time.
Oh, yeah. The good thing is, if you do get bored of the tanks, you can nip next door because there's a monkey zoo next door.
Monkey World.
That's his speed.
I'll fit right in.
Yeah. So maybe another question very similar to the one we talked about. Ivan, to you maybe. What is your expectation of Bovington, and what are you looking forward to see the most there?
I know they've got a lot of tanks. I did it for the eye roll. No, I mean, without sounding cliche, I really want to see 131.
Yeah,
obviously, but the entire heavy German armor collection, the Tiger 1, the Tiger 2, Jag Panther, Jag Tiger, just they've got Ferdinand or an elephant, not sure which one it is. But also the more obscure stuff, like they've got a Samoa there, Samoa over the rainbow, and all the little weird obscure tanks that aren't as mainstream. Get a lot of pictures, get a lot of references for future builds we're all going to do, because we won't be able to find Jackson because he'll be in an engine deck somewhere just buried.
Out in the Arresto yard, just climbing in hulks and stuff, offering his service. Hey, I'll volunteer here. I'll stay here.
Absolutely.
So their World War I hull is gorgeous.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
That's what I'm excited for. They have a Mark IV that was one of the ones that was used technically in World War II. They basically reactivated it to defend the British Isles from the proposed German invasion. And they actually mounted a Lewis gun ring mount to the top. And that exact Mark IV is at the museum. And I've wanted to build it for a while. So I'm going to go and see if I can hold my hand up high with the camera and try to get a picture of the roof to see if there's any scars and see how they did it. So that's my go-to thing.
Nice.
I think a selfie stick, that'd work.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Use my gimbal.
I'll just get on Ivan's shoulders. You can just hold me up there.
Nice. So, and Graeme, it's been a while since you've been there. Anything, striking your fancy that you want to see?
To be honest, I was just watching after listening to you guys talking about your Samoa build, and then seeing yours. Yeah. I watched the Tank Museum do a load of videos about specific vehicles, and I watched theirs on the Samoa, as they call it, and it's in that really funky tricolour camo scheme, banded, and it just looks amazing. I'm really looking forward to seeing that, to be honest, because I'm going to have to build one now, you realise. But yeah, the camo pattern that's in looks awesome. I definitely want to have a look at that. But other than that, I was 13, so that's quite a lot of years ago since I was there last, so it's going to have changed a hell of a lot. And as I said in the chat the other day, my knowledge of armour and aircraft is very poor. So I might need a bit of a nudge. And that's a Tiger. Oh, is it? Right. Okay. Yeah.
Nice. Luke, anything for you?
Well, I was there. The last time I was there was 4 years ago now. So what they've done is, during the period that everything was closed, is they've reconfigured every single exhibition within the museum. So I'll be seeing that for the first time. It's a lot more interactive. There's a lot of virtual stuff going on there that they've spent 2 years putting this new format together. So that's going to be really interesting to see. And the World War I hall for me is it blows my mind every time. And they've got, they've got the cutaway, and you can look inside the real vehicle and you just think how these guys operated in this carbon monoxide hole. And we're still fine, it's just amazing. Yeah, it really is. And that area of the country is very kind of significant for me, because in the British military, the reason it's at Bovington is because that's where our Royal Armoured Corps is based. It's a big training area. I've spent a lot of time getting wet, cold and muddy around there. So yeah.
I lived down that part of the country for several years. So I know the area pretty well, and I've holidayed down there a few times when I was really young kid as well, which is actually when I went to the Tank Museum when I was actually on holiday. I lived there for years and never went back. So yeah, it's always nice to go back, and the scenery down there is just stunning. It's beautiful. Jurassic Coast, so you've got all the cliffs, and if you want to go fossil hunting, you can. Not that we'll have time for that because I'll be too busy tanking, but it is beautiful down there.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I think one of the things I'm looking forward to at the Tank Museum is actually the gift shop. I think they got a lot of cool stuff. Their Christmas jumper is out, which I'm a big fan of. So we will be getting that. I will wear that to the company holiday party. So I think that's one of the things I'm looking forward to is just all the trinkets that I can put around my workshop and remind me of the good time. But, the museum itself, I was there just about the same time you was, Luke, back in 2018. I actually got to go on my honeymoon, which was great. And that was the tiger display there. So that's where, they were all together except the Sturm Tiger. Carl mentions in the chat, the elephant did go home. But I know they still have, they still got the other big boys, the Jagd Tiger and the two King Tigers and obviously 131. So the displays I really enjoy too is the modern stuff. So the Type 59 and the BMP they brought back from the Gulf War, seeing them kind of honestly raw and uncut. And the Enigma, the T-55 Enigma is another one where it's, so cool to see literally what came from the field. And then in that same area, they kind of have the factory scene where they have some of the tanks. I think one of them's cut in half, and they have the first Sherman, the oldest Sherman, which I'm sure Jackson's going to go, touch the glacis and, feel all of its texture. And
I'm excited to see it again for sure.
So take a selfie with it, and that'll be his new profile on any dating app. So,
you might have to pry me off it. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah. So I mean, every aspect of the museum is going to be great. And then I think there's an opportunity to look at least over onto the restoration hall or that big hall. Essentially, it's a huge warehouse.
Yeah.
That's impressive as well.
I mean, we could just name drop you and they'll let us drive or whatever.
I
don't know if that works, but
we brought John Bernani over. Oh, here are the keys for 131.
Yeah, right.
Spud, I think Spud's going to be there with us as well. So that's going to shape up to be a great trip. In addition to, us online here, John Everett, Spud, anyone else that we're missing that's going to be joining us for that trip?
Ben.
Ben, okay.
Yeah. No, Ben. Yeah, Ben's coming listening, and I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, the others have to return home.
Go back to regular life.
Yeah, boring, isn't it?
It's unfortunate. So
that Bovington trip actually was really fortuitous because Ivan and I had just been talking about it probably about a week before this plan started. And I sort of said, Ivan, because I quite happily often go and pick him up from home and ferry him around the country because he doesn't do public transport. And he just mentioned that he really wanted to go. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, let's sort it out. I'll come and get you and we'll have a weekend down there or something. And he said, yeah. And it was just one of those things that we'll sort it out at some point. And then I think it was 3 or 4 days later when you'd said that you wanted to go. And Ivan sort of put in the chat, I wouldn't mind. John and them were asking to go to the Tank Museum. Luke was like, I'll be up for that. And I thought, yeah, so will I. Let's go. Let's do it.
Nice.
So yeah, it's all worked out really well. It's going to be brilliant.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic.
I'm buzzing. I'm so excited. Can you tell?
And I think what I enjoy about the Tank Museum is their enthusiasm.
Yeah.
For the subject. And they're massive fans of modeling. They're massive fans of the hobby. There's videos on their YouTube channel about it, people building armor and stuff. And yeah, they're massively encouraging to that side of it. So yeah, it's going to be a great time.
Oh, it is. One thing I think we focused on as well with this is I made it obvious with all my posts on Facebook, and I've mentioned it a billion times. When I went to the US, it was more than just the model show. It was the week beforehand with all the museums and food and having a great time. And we're really trying to make that the same here. It's more than just Telford. It's everything else that we can do. It's impossible to beat John at being a host, but we can certainly try.
No, and that's what I'm looking forward to as well. I've seen in the chat here a lot of people have chimed in that they'll be at the show, and certainly I've watched your live streams from Black Rifle and a lot of the folks there that are looking forward to it. And that's the goal. I mean, I'll have the Plastic Posse shirt on. I'm going to have loads of stickers. We're just going to have a really good time, and that's what I'm looking forward to the most. I don't expect to, see everything because we're going to see everyone. And I think that's probably, the more important thing. And that sense of community, making those international connections that'll last a lifetime. That's
absolutely
going to be great.
Forging friendships. That's what it's about, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, and then we can respond in kind for Texas because I know Luke, you're coming over.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know if you've made travel arrangements yet, but you are certainly welcome in Denver with Ivan beforehand if you want to see that part of the country, and we'll make a trip down. But getting back to Telford, this is. I'm speechless. It's going to be great.
It's a pretty big deal.
So we are 9 days away, 10 days away. It's going to be here before we know it. I have more work to do on my models, and I'm sure you gentlemen do too. So, Ivan's quit modeling for the time being.
Yeah, I'm on sabbatical for a week, 2 weeks.
I don't know whether I mentioned it, Ivan, but I finished my last shift today, so I've got plenty of time on my hands.
Yeah, I've got 1 day off, then a 7-day run. So you could be in the hangouts all day, modeling, chilling.
You've got 1 full day off. That's 24 hours, yeah?
Yeah, but
that's a lot of time to work on Tomcats. Or you could just give up. It's up to you.
So
he's conceded already.
I've already conceded. Luckily, we've both agreed that we don't want comets.
I think that's blasphemy. I don't think I can say that with
not publicly. What you say?
Not publicly. Here we are, public to the world. But no, that. Joking aside, if it's there, I'll probably buy one. So seeing Sam's build of it, I know. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Spencer or Marcus have one that they're working on. So I foresee it being a very popular subject. And to be honest, I'm really looking forward to Airfix at the show. Call me what you want, but I'm really looking forward to their display. I've heard they do a really good job. Will they make an announcement at the show? Is that planned?
I heard a rumor today that their new 24 scale Spitfire is going on sale as of the 6th of November.
Well, I'll be buying one at the show then.
So if that is correct, and that's from a fairly reliable source, so if that is correct, they will have that.
That wouldn't be surprising. It's got to be very, very close to production now.
And it's been produced in the UK, so logistically, it's not a big deal for them to get fairly soon.
Yeah, like you said, they do a nice stand anyway. They've always got built models painted and decaled and all that, but they've also got them just built from plastic, so you can see just them naked. Really cool. I'm really hoping Adam Tooby's stand is next to them this year again. His artwork is just you guys know, incredible. I've got a piece on my wall. I want to buy a few more because he's just a magnificent illustrator and artist. So I really hope he's there again. It's going to be really good. But I remind you, if you're buying food and drink at the venue, card only. They won't take cash.
Gotcha. I'm actually really happy to hear Tooby because I love his digital box arts. I want a couple, and that's probably going to be one of the things I bring back. I just got to think about the size and the tube fitting in the suitcase. That'll be the most important thing.
Well, if you do see anything there, John, that you're going to struggle to get back, I am happy to bring it back to here, and then I'll ship it out to the US.
Oh, cool. I really appreciate that. That might be something with the posters because I could get them in a nice solid tube and then send them back because it's one of my concerns with those always.
Yeah.
Well, if he has a catalog there and he's got them in tubes under the table ready.
Oh, cool.
So if you buy a piece, it'll give it you with obviously the number that's sealed and signed, and it's already in a really rigid tube. So they're good to go. So that's good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking at all the things. I cannot wait.
Yeah, all of the stuff.
All the stuff. And then the SIGs and the people and the food, and we'll stop at McDonald's beforehand, get Jackson his Happy Meal. We'll be all set. It'll be great. I just can't wait.
I need chocolate milk. I'm sorry.
Which is different to a chocolate milkshake apparently, but whatever.
So it's a whole other conversation.
Last night, Jackson, we're looking at clubs for us to go at in London.
Oh, yep, we're gonna hit up a club one of the nights we're in London for sure.
Yeah,
I told him he doesn't have a choice, and he will be dancing because he said he never dances. I'm like, all right, we're gonna get you enough Beefeater strawberry gin to
please take a video.
Oh, there will be videos, and it will be all over the Posse's page. Believe me, we'll get new stickers.
No more stickers.
If you can catch it, there's a well-known club called Scala in London, and they do a non-lyric power ballad night.
Huh.
And I don't do nightclubs, but I was dragged in there some years ago. We were going to see Green Day at Wembley, and the night before I got dragged into Scala, and it was all power ballads, but with no lyrics. And there were those, those inflatable saxophones and stuff. Mm-hmm. There was those lying around, and everybody just had to sing the songs and pretend to play instruments. And it was actually really good fun.
That's unique. That sounds
like my type of night.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I have to mention, John Tapsell has just mentioned, if there's an empty glass case in front of the Earthix stand, then they'll be announcing something.
Yeah.
So pay attention. If there's an empty stand, that means something's coming.
Nice. So sticking on the topic of late night events, and I know we're coming up a little bit over an hour, we'll probably call it here soon. One of the things, at the IPMS Nationals, the night affair, once the show ends, the real party begins. Is that the same type of environment there? Is there a local pub or place, hotel rooms? Does that type of environment exist outside of the show hours as well?
I don't think Premier Inn will appreciate Nat's level noise. I'll just say that now, getting kicked out by security at 3 a.m. But everyone will know that there's a Wetherspoons nearby. Which
never been in a Wetherspoons?
You're not missing much. It's a bit loud.
Wow. Yeah, you're not missing much.
Nightlife, there's restaurants, there's a couple bars. Telford Centre isn't a big centre. You make your own legal entertainment.
Yeah. I'm glad you caveated it as legal.
Yeah, I think it's about the group of friends that you're there with. Mm-hmm. So there absolutely will be good times after the day has ended.
Oh yeah.
But for a lot of people, they retire, get something to eat, retire to their hotel room, and that's it. But yeah, we will definitely be sociable, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Outstanding.
There's gin to be had.
Pink gin, right?
Oh yeah.
Strawberry gin. Apparently there's a difference.
No, it's just the bottle you looked at just said pink. It was specifically strawberry.
And then in the description it said strawberry flavored.
It's not the same bottle that I have on my shelf.
So we're a little bit over an hour. We'll tidy this up. Maybe one last parting shot. As we look forward to Telford, we've kind of hinted at it. We've kind of talked about it, but I'd love to go around the room one last time for each person to, state what are they looking forward to the most. And, we can all lead with that. So we'll just go around the ring. I'll start with Ivan.
You guys. I wouldn't go to Telford if I was going on my own. Simple as that. Same in us. If I was going solo, I wouldn't bother. You guys and the friends and the social make the shows what they are. Simple as that. Spending time with you lot and having a laugh.
Awesome. Jackson?
I'm going to sound redundant, but also you guys. More specifically, I'm really excited to see Ivan again. We had a blast hanging out at Nats. So we've been talking a lot on Discord and stuff back and forth, and it'll be fun to hang out with him in person again. And then on top of that, I've got a few other friends over in England that I'm excited to meet in person. Christian Wolf is one of them. He does amazing modeling work, and I'm bringing him a kit that he wanted. So I'm excited to meet him in person. And honestly, just experiencing a non-US show for the first time. I think it'll be really fun.
Nice. Luke?
I can only echo, really. It's the social side, meeting you guys for the first time. There's lots of members of the Black Rifle group that I kind of know the name, but I don't know them. They've already said they'll be at Telford. We're going to try and do some sort of meet and greet thing and actually meet these people face to face, shake hands, have a coffee, whatever. So that, for me, that's the whole purpose of the weekend. And I'm also, little Al McNeish is staying at my house that weekend. So I'm looking forward to hosting Al for sure.
Awesome. Definitely. Graeme, your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly the same. It's all about the social for me. Although I think for the first time, I'm actually probably more likely to pay more attention to the club and SIG stands for some sort of inspiration now. I've got I've got some stuff in mind that I want to build, and I'm looking for some ideas on that. But overwhelmingly, it's just the socials. Really, it's just meeting everybody. It's going to be great.
Awesome. Well, I'll echo the same, but I think, all of us can agree it's not only the people we know, but the people we haven't met yet.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that we're going to walk away from the show with newer relationships, new friendships, and long lasting, just, a brotherhood, to be honest. And look forward to meeting everyone in the Black Rifle community, other communities, seeing their work, sharing stories, and honestly making memories and look, just building upon what, we've had presence online and bringing it in person. And then also, sharing this with other people that have considered Telford. I think one thing is we've been really lucky to, bring people into the IPMS Nationals, through the Triple P. When I looked at Telford, going live streams with you folks and the Black Rifle community, the folks at the Triple P, and just, again, maybe next year it attracts one more person, and it attracts a person not only to the show, but the community in which we're trying to build. And that's what I look forward to as well. And I can't wait to shake all of your hands and, share a pint, and certainly, treat for at least one of them. And, again, come back a month from now that I don't even want to think about, and have a recap around, what we shared and what we'll never forget. So,
Absolutely.
With that, if there's no other parting shots, we can call it. We can thank our listeners for, tuning in, listening in, and then this will be posted not only on Facebook but YouTube, but it'll go in the upcoming episode that drops prior to Telford. I think it drops the Wednesday prior to. So if you're heading to Telford, you can certainly tune in and have a listen. Get hyped, get excited. We look forward to seeing you. And again, I want to thank everybody that was not only online participating, but my lovely co-hosts here. So I can't wait to see you in person.
It's been great.
Oh, yes. So with that, take care, enjoy yourselves and each other, and we will see you in Telford.
Well, that was a great chat, and the rest of us are not at all jealous that you guys are going to Telford. And also make sure you take good care of my son Jackson while he's out of the country, and hopefully you can get him back in one piece.
It's now time for our discussion point. Since TJ and Scott talked about MMSI, it would be a good idea for the rest of us to talk about a few other shows or events we went to in the last weeks. Doug?
Well, we were invited, the whole podcast was invited. I unfortunately was the only one that could participate in scale models for vets from the Netherlands. It was a 48-hour group build. They weren't real strict about scales, although I did stick to 48 scale. Had a whole bunch of different stuff going all through there from different aircraft. Somebody was building an ATST from Bandai. I chose a 148 scale Matilda Mark III-4 from Tamiya. Was able to knock that out in a couple of days, had a great time doing it, enjoyed my visiting with everybody from across the pond. I think I was the only person from North America participating. Just had a great time.
Yeah, it was great. I jumped in a couple times when I had a little bit of free time, and your Matilda looked fantastic. There were some great builds in that again. Looked some really good work. Your camo was fantastic on that little thing, and you knocked it right out of the park.
Well, it took a lot of tape to get those edges, straight edges. It wasn't that hard. I thought it was going to be more complex than it ended up being. I mean, you don't want to put it under a microscope and look at some of those lines, but for a 48-hour build, I was pretty happy with it.
You should have been. It looked great. And, a tanker doesn't paint straight anyway. Trust me. They don't paint straight at all. I was actually lucky enough to attend the Antelope Valley IPMS show, which was last weekend. So it was the last weekend of October, I think. Yeah. 400 plus models, 73 entries, people entered. It was another great little show. It's been the first time they've had that show in 2 years because of course, COVID, but it was a fantastic show. Ran into a lot of great people again. A lot of people saying hi, love the show. A lot of people saying, you're doing a great job and we appreciate it. And that's great to hear. Also, Bruce was there, Ivan, your buddy from Nationals, and he said to tell you hi. And he wants to tell the rest of you guys hello, and he can't wait to see you guys again, and hopefully coming up soon. Also, ran into a couple of my friends out here. Mike Armstrong, of course, was with me. Steve Monroe, and a couple, Roger Ferrara, who's a fantastic 1/72nd scale aircraft builder. I sent some pictures of his work. He did a Mustang, which was in Polish markings. He did an Argentine, I can't remember what kind of aircraft it was, but he also did a Japanese float plane. All fantastic. Took first and second in this category. Just fantastic work. There was some really good work there. There's a lot of modelers there from the local area. People came down from Fresno. People came up from San Diego. Captain Joe Borsch was there from Las Vegas, and he brought over his huge table of model cars, which was great to see. And he did really well there. And it was like really nice to see Joe again, and can't wait to see him out in Vegas pretty soon. That's about it for me. What about you, TJ?
So recently, our buddy Jackson and I went to Havre de Grace, Maryland for MarauderCon. It was a good time. It's far away. It's like 2 hours from my house. It was worth the drive. It's a little bit north of Baltimore in Maryland. Yeah, it was great. Pretty decently sized show. The Model Geek said it was about the same size as the Fairfax show my local show. I don't think it was. I think it was a fair bit smaller, still well attended. I just love going to shows, man. It's just so much fun. And getting to hang out with Jackson all day is also, a huge plus. And we went and had lunch with a buddy of mine, and he hung out at the house for a little while. He saw my sweet ass 1/16 scale Sherman that really convinced him to buy one. So yeah,
that's great to hear, man. I'm glad Jackson. I mean, he's like your little brother now, it sounds like. So it's great to take him over to England, JB, and, get him and Ivan, and JB can be the official adult for the next couple of weeks.
Or his dad's.
Or his dad. JB, tell us about your little adventure, Top Gun Ace there.
Oh, boy. So the last couple of weeks have been really busy, but good busy. I had the opportunity to go out to Southern California and get a ride in a T-38, which was pretty much one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. So I had an hour in the back seat and got to fly a lot of it. And I hate to report, I'm not going to be an aircraft modeler. It was awesome, but I'm not. I have a T-38 model. So shout out to Steve Baker for sending that as a prelude to the event. Just a really great time. Was down in Burbank for a few hours. Honestly, I think I flew in and flew out all within about 24 hours. But I hit the key things. I had in and out. I was in Mojave. So there's a nice little display outside the airport there with, I think it's Saab Viggen, I think is there. And then an F4 that was a drone. And then I actually went over to the Westgate at Edwards. I couldn't go on base, but outside they have a Century Series display, which is pretty cool. So they have all the Century Series fighters there. And you can actually see the new building they're building for the Flight Test Museum. So that should be exciting, where they can, bring everything out from the museum that they have on base and then give the public access to those aircraft. So it's a cool little spot. Looking forward to when it's done. But on my way back, I was very fortunate to run into Grant. Just missed JC at Burbank House of Hobbies. JC, a good friend of the podcast, has been talking about the place for a long time. Grant has certainly mentioned it as well. And I finally had an opportunity to stop by before my flight out. And let me tell our listeners, it is a fantastic shop. Absolutely fantastic, as Ivan would say. But it's located right there in Burbank, super short distance away from the airport. So if you're flying in and out of Burbank, it's probably less than 5 minutes away, Grant?
Oh yeah, it's on Victory Avenue there. You can't miss it.
Can't miss it. Super small, super small. I wouldn't even say super small shop. It's the size of a standard, storefront, maybe 20 feet wide, but it is chock-a-block full with stuff, and it's quality stuff. It's everything from, premium die-cast, Gundams, armor, aircraft, built stuff from the local community, scratch and dent. The latest releases, I have the Japanese 150-ton heavy tank from TACOM. That is nowhere to be found in the United States, and they had one there.
Speaking of, they have another one in stock. I was there today.
Jeez, oh man. They get stuff more than anybody else, and their Mac collection. That's another thing, for folks that are looking to participate in the group build. Burbank House of Hobbies has a solid Mac stock, and their prices are relatively, market rate. And they're fast shippers as well. But in addition to the kits, the consumable aisles are, again, second to none. They have literally every brand of paint ever known to scale modeling. They have every tool known to scale modeling. And it is all it's just really clean, very well organized. And it's just a really great shop. It gives you a good feeling when you walk in the door. And then I actually like too, around the top, on the one side, they had really old retro kits and retro builds, which was honestly like a mini museum around the top of the place. But highly recommended for anyone in Southern California. Very, very much worth the trip. If you're in and out of Burbank, easy stop. So for our airline pilots, Jeremy Moore, John Everett, and I know Steve Baker's been there. If you folks stop by, it's so good. It's dangerous. And yeah, it was a good stop. And then afterwards had dinner with Grant and his lovely wife. So that was great. We had tacos, very romantic. Grant and I. Sorry, we had the third wheel. I guess she probably felt a little awkward, but no, it was actually a really great time to get to know her. And we had a really great discussion around the podcast. What are we going to do in 2023 and. Hearing her input was really valuable. And it was also great to have just a fresh perspective outside of the six of us. So really, really fun dinner. I am certainly grateful for it. Grant treated, and the tacos were great. So I will certainly look forward to coming visit again.
We have a new partner here at the Posse. I want to welcome HobbySwap.com to the Plastic Posse. Has your stash become monstrous? Need cash or maybe just some extra space? Or maybe you're looking to grow your collection? Try finding that special, unique kit. Well, Posse members, whatever your needs are, check out HobbySwap.com. That's hobby-swap.com. Did I mention that at HobbySwap, you can list as many models as you want to sell for free? That's right, unlimited free listings. They also have lower fees than any of the other big-named auction sites, and it's easy to use. Posting a kit for sale takes as little as 30 seconds. HobbySwap.com. It's like going to a model show every time you log in. Check out HobbySwap.com today. That's HOBBY-SWAP.com.
All right, my turn. Social media shout-outs, the one thing that I love the most, because we have such a great group of individuals that post in our Posse group on Facebook. I'm going to highlight some that have stuck out to me recently, and I'm going to open up the mic to anyone else here as a host that wants to contribute as well, because there has been some really, really nice stuff. I'm going to say 4, so I actually might steal some that they wanted to list, but I'll start off with Mike Libero. He's building a droid tank from AMT, one of my favorite vehicles from the sci-fi, universe, that is Star Wars. So he's just started that. Really looking forward to, as he goes through construction and paint. And then I got to give a shout out to GC Scale Models. His Lab 3 is really coming together well. I would encourage all of our listeners to go over there and look at his build. Tons of photo etch, and it's just getting into paint. Really, really nice work. And then the last two I'll briefly highlight is Gunnar Baumer's M114. It's such a cool vehicle, but I love that he's done that, super unique NATO scheme from, I think it's the 80s. It's like the tan, orangish brown, green, and black scheme. Very, very well done. Hard edge, certainly inspirational. And then the last one I'm going to highlight is Jesse Naughton's ISU 152. Probably stole that from somebody else because it is an absolutely fantastic build. And I might have the opportunity to see Jesse here in Denver over the next week and meet up at Colpar. So that's what really stuck out to me. Thank you so much for contributing all. Anyone else got anything to shout out?
Yeah, I want to give our buddy Grizzle Shizzle, Zachary Grizzle. He did a little vignette of like a machine gun, like a little kind of towed machine gun. I'm not sure what the exact model number is, but really fantastic. Great presentation on a little bit of a base. And I think you really crushed that build, really sharp. And so, Zach, great job on that. And then I wanted to reach out to our good friends, Dave, Ian, and Julian over at On the Bench and tell them congratulations. Podfather Dave, guys, way to go. 150 episodes. That's a heck of a benchmark. And you guys kind of were the ones that pushed this space out there. So great job. Congratulations.
I was going to say what Zach was working on is a 37 millimeter autocannon. It is of German design.
Are any of you guys familiar with Squidmar Miniatures on YouTube?
Yeah, he's very good.
Yeah, I've been using him for the last week. I'm trying to... TJ's really inspired me to try to work on my bust game. And so on TJ's recommendation, I printed out some busts a couple months ago. And I used Squidmar's technique. I'm slowly learning how to paint and shade and do all that stuff with some advice from TJ, which is highly, highly appreciated. It was Squidmar Miniatures. If you ever get a chance, check them out. They're on YouTube.
I'm going to throw a shout out to Aussie Scale Modelers. Good guys. They give good show reports. They have all kinds of great stuff on there. They do some great models. They're actually heading to the same contest the Sam Dwyer's heading to right now. So if you have a chance, just look up Aussie Scale Modelers on Instagram or Facebook, and you'll really enjoy their site. Thank all of you for joining us on episode 57. You can send your feedback or suggestions to plasticpossepodcast@gmail.com. All of us at the Posse want to thank you for being the best listeners and supporters and being a part of the great community. Hopefully, each of you gets to spend some time at the bench doing the best hobby out there, scale modeling. Yeehaw!
I just finished the Rings of Power.
Actually, yeah.
You guys seen that?
Not yet.
No, I'm not a nerd.
Whatever.
Bull.
Says the guy in the Fallout chair.
Seriously, says the guy eating a McDonald's McFlurry in a video game.
I didn't know ice cream was exclusive to nerds.
No, but Fallout chairs are.
Well, I know what we could talk about because hopefully everyone here is watching it. But how good is Andor?
Oh,
I need to catch up.
Oh,
Meh.
dude.
Me too.
Meh.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Wow.
Man.
Okay, best Star Wars series yet.
Yeah.
It's better than Mando.
Yeah.
Oh.
The writing is deep. It's got the best characters developed yet. It's the best show all around.
How about it's the best Star Wars since The Empire Strikes Back?
I might go there.
I could actually go there.
I'm going to push Ivan in the Thames when I see him.
And do you know why I'm saying that? Because I've not watched it.
Not watched it.
What?
Until I watch it, it's meh.
There's a big surprise. Coming from the same guy that's like, I don't like Mr. Mahogany 1000.
I've
never used it.
I've never been to Telford, even though I live like right down the road. I've been
Telford.
Yeah, or whatever. I'm sorry.
Your sphere of influence, 50-mile circle around your domicile.
Andor is good.
Yes,
it is good.
Is Darth Vader in it?
No,
I'm not interested.
I love the way I love how they're bringing Rogue One and the actual Star Wars 4, 5, and 6 into the actual episodes. How they're talking about how I've been fighting the Empire since I've been 6 years old. It's fantastic. Shut up, Ivan.
No, sorry. I just saw JV's picture of me eating ice cream.
Scott, I also watched The Rings of Power, and it was okay.
I really liked it. I thought it started slow, but I really thought it ended well. And man, after reading the Silmarillion, the fact that they've been able to make it compelling, I think, is a pretty good accomplishment. What did you like about it?
The dwarves. They're the best part of anything Lord of the Rings. So I'm not a big like Tolkien nerd, right? I've never read the Silmarillion, so whatever, any of that stuff. I have not even finished reading the original Lord of the Rings. I've read most of the Fellowship of the Ring, and I've read some of The Hobbit. I've seen all the movies. Love the original trilogy. Did not care for The Hobbit, but I also know a lot about the lore, which a lot of it I don't care about because it doesn't really matter. That it could be compelling without being beholden to the very, very dense lore that surrounds the Legendarium. One of my biggest complaints, and it's something that Game of Thrones suffered from as well towards the end of its run, is how fast people go very, very long distances. So I want to say it's the last episode or second last episode where Gadriel takes Halbrand from essentially Mordor all the way to Eregion, and he's mortally wounded, and she makes that ride and says it takes her a while to get there. It's like a legit 1,000 miles away. It's like almost on the other side of Middle Earth. That bothers me because I know it's very, very far away, and I can hand wave away some of it. Like, I don't really care. Same thing when Frodo rode from Weathertop to why is my brain not working? Where Elrond lives, Rivendell. That's a far ride too, right? And he was wounded, so there was, he gets there really fast, but also it takes him a while in the book. It takes a little less time in the movie. So some of this I'm okay with, but I'm like, that's really far away, and he's like literally dying, like on the way there. He should be dead. He should just have died. But I mean, that doesn't like, I'm not gonna, oh, this show sucked because they rode from Mordor to Eregion in almost no time at all. I don't care about that.
The Numenorian ships got home pretty fast too.
yeah, there's that too. I get that you have to compress time, and that they did that in Lord of the Rings too, because the Fellowship of the Ring, a lot of stuff happens before the Fellowship actually forms, and it takes a lot of time. And I get you have to compress that to make compelling TV or movies, so that stuff doesn't bother me. When it starts to get egregious. Like, that was one of my, it bothered me in Game of Thrones too, but that's not why the last couple seasons Game of Thrones sucked or weren't as good as they should have been.
Yeah.
That's just another thing to add to the pile. But overall, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to season 2. I'll watch it. I mean, I watched it religiously, every Friday. I didn't wait. I got home and took a shower and went downstairs and watched Lord of the Rings. Or, I'm sorry, The Rings of Power.
Yeah. No, the production values were really, really high. And like I said, I think they did a good job of kind of combing through, volumes and volumes of what were, I don't think Tolkien ever intended for the Silmarillion to be a book. I think they just kind of wanted to publish a book. So they took a lot of writings, but I thought they've done a pretty good job. But I'm a Lord of the Rings nerd, so I've read the main story dozens of times. Really good, but I think the production values are really incredible. Obviously Weta is doing a top-notch job, and I will give Amazon credit; they're sparing no expense.
Yeah, that's true. The biggest, so the production is great. I think the biggest complaint I have is it's being run by 2 first-time showrunners, and it's very obvious that they have not run a show before, let alone a show of this scale. Like, being a showrunner is a hard job. That's why there's a lot of turnover on even popular shows. I mean, look at Walking Dead. Even Game of Thrones went through more than one showrunner. Like, it happens, and they are not the best showrunners, and their writing is not the best. I think a lot of the complaints that I have, if their writing was a little bit better, I would probably have less of those complaints. It's just really weak in a lot of areas. Not to say I disliked it. It's just like, you can tell the people that wrote this and are running it, this is the first time they've done it. So I would like to think that it's going to get better. They've already said there's going to be, 5 seasons? They've already committed to multiple seasons, which you just don't see. I mean, even look at House of the Dragon, which was fantastic. Mm-hmm. Amazing. There was no way it wasn't going to be successful, but even they didn't commit to more than 1 season before the first season was done. So
yeah, it's what, five seasons is what they're going to do minimum on Rings of Power.
What they said, which, hey, I'm there for it.
But Henry Cavill said the same about being The Witcher, and now he broke my heart and he's quit.
Yeah, that's because that DC money started calling his name.
It's a combination of it. He's Superman again. Yeah. He was a good Superman anyway. And he said 1 million times he wouldn't stick to it if they wouldn't keep to the original story.
They kept trying to change
the writers.
It. Yep.
The writers have openly said they didn't like the original books, which is why you're writing a Witcher series then. And he's argued with them so many times, he's had to change scenes because it's not part of the original. I mean, so I understand him saying, well, if you're not going to do it right, then I'm not going to be part of it. But Liam Hemsworth, I don't know. It's hard to judge because obviously we've not seen him do it yet.
To be fair, everyone was complaining when the first shots of Henry Cavill and the wig surfaced online. They're like, this looks so dumb. And then everyone fell in love with it. So
Yeah,
We
it
shall
definitely works. So, Doug, Grant, TJ, what do you think? JB's Pizza or Ivan's ice cream treat?
I'm still going with Ivan's ice cream. So that was good.
This was Jet's Pizza, so
Oh,
you can't
Jets
beat
is
that.
good, man.
Oh, that's some good stuff.
Right now.
Oh man.
I was dying. I needed some, and I can't contribute to that conversation because I'm uneducated.
You did watch House of the Dragon, though.
Yeah, I don't really remember much of their names. I feel they all kind of sound the same.
Well, there's
They all
like
kinda
3
look the
Aegons,
same.
so
yeah.
just call him Aegon, and you
the
got a good
pirate
chance
guy with the eye patch.
That's Aemon.
Is
Yeah.
everyone a Targaryen?
Yeah,
yes.
pretty much.
It's
But
called
that's
House of the
simple.
Dragon.
Doctor Who is in there. He doesn't age at all.
Apparently, he's Doctor Who again, from what I understand.
No, David Tennant.
Oh, really?
David Tennant is? I thought.
Have you not seen the video? Yeah, he's
I don't
back.
watch that dumb so I couldn't
I
tell
don't
you.
because it's Doctor Who. It's either shit or ironically shit. I can't tell which one.
It's definitely meant to be.
Well, Jackson's going looking for a TARDIS. For an Airfix TARDIS.
He rages whenever I say that.
What?
That it's crap television.
Yeah, but you watch it though, don't you?
Oh God, no! It's got taste.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I mean, I don't really watch TV.
That shirt says otherwise.
Oh,
Shots fired. Oh, wow.
Wow. Not even over the bow, straight into it.
I can see TJ's handprint on Ivan's face, man.
I mean, I would.
You
be
can't
upset,
say
but-
that.
I would be upset, but I'm looking forward too much to Telford next week.
Oh, you bastard.
And a few days in London with my boys.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Burbank House of Hobbies, I picked up the new V1 with the ramp today for on sale, $55.
Oh, that's a great price.
Yeah. So I got their last one. So sorry, guys. So yeah, they have it for $79. They got it knocked down to $55. So that was a great price. So
Yeah, I think Ivan paid about that price, but then paid like 4 times as much to get it to his house.
I think so. It might have been. I don't know. But see, I didn't have to pay any taxes, transportation, except for the gas driving from the store to my house. So
We both bought one. I bought one after you bought it.
Yeah.
She's like, it's only $80. So I went to the store. I'll have it for $80.
And I got the Japanese tank, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I think it's huge.
We're going to check out
monster.
the real launching ramp at Duxford.
Indeed.
Yeah, and the ramp is 38 inches long, 37
It's a
inches long.
beast.
Yeah, it's like that's going to take up a whole lot of room.
So Maverick, how many times did you get sick in the jet?
I didn't get sick at all.
Wow, 0.
The only time I felt a little woozy is so we did, a couple loops, Immelmans, barrel rolls, just, rolls and stuff. It just kind of just flew everywhere essentially. And then the last thing we did before we did some touch and goes was aileron roll. So did a left aileron roll. I did a right. And then the pilot did a full stick aileron roll. And the full stick was the one that we're coming around on approach. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, I feel really wet right now. And I felt the sweat coming down through the helmet onto my face. I'm like, okay, I should get some air on my skin. So I put my hand on the little vent and recovered probably within a minute. But that was the thing that, because your equilibrium just gets really thrown off in that type of maneuver. Everything else, like the loop, Immelman, barrel roll, the pilot would say, oh, we're going to do this. And I would always like look that way and follow, kind of pretend, I guess I was flying that way. And you can maintain your, sensory perception or whatever you want to call it through those maneuvers. But yeah, it was great. It was a lot smoother than I thought. There were no jerks. We even did some stalls and it didn't feel like you were falling or anything. It was just like simple nose over and then recover. Very, very fun aircraft to go flying in. And Steve Baker prepped me on what to eat and what to drink beforehand. So yeah, it was great. And the iridescent paint job where it shapeshifts between blue and purple is pretty BA as well. So I have that T-38 and I will be building it in that scheme. So, but yeah, it was incredible. Fastest hour of my life.
So, Ivan, you've got some massive shoes to fill as host of this event. You've got the John Bonani standard of hosting. I'm going to tell you, it's not easy to live up to.
Oh, I know.
So,
I lost sleep.
So, what do you think? Are you ready? Are you ready for these guys?
Financially not, because it was payday today and I'm dramatically underpaid. That's always good.
That's why you have credit cards.
First payday, 500 shorter than it should have been.
God's truth.
Yeah. So
it'll be absolutely fantastic.
Jackson got a pay rise recently.
Yeah. So
his problem.
I mean, what I think one of the best parts of it, super big shout out to John Bryan, who's picking us up from
Huge.
It's game changer. That saves half a day. So got to take care of him.
And,
he's picking Jackson and I up.
A lot of money.
A lot of money, half a day, a lot less stress, because we'll just get picked up at Heathrow and go straight up, and then we'll see you. And
JB's first priority is to go to Cosford, and when Ivan came over here, his first priority was to go to Costco.
Hey.
I can't wait.
We don't have exciting food outlets.
Oh.
Or anything exciting at all.
I'm looking forward to the fish and chips. I know Jackson's looking forward to the chips part.
Just the chips.
Just the chips. Hold the fish. Hold the peas. I agree with that.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Mushy peas, they can jog on.
The thing that's going to be disappointing is when we're in London, there's so many. Like I went to a great. It was a Cantonese place. Fantastic. Indian food too is great, and we'll stop by Mickey D's and get him some French fries.
You can get some nuggies.
I mean, I'll get some too. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But,
ours are better than yours.
Oh,
I'm sorry. That's just facts.
Wow.
Excuse you.
We
invented Ronald McDonald. He's ours.
But a bit like your Mustang, we mastered it.
Oh.
I don't really like the Mustang, so I'm okay with that comment. I'm a Spitfire guy, so.
Yeah.
But I think one thing is for certain: we will live stream to Scott twice as much as we live stream to Ivan to just maybe rub it in a little bit.
Yeah, and all the food pictures.
Yeah.
I'm getting nauseous thinking about it right now, and it hasn't even happened.
Yeah.
It's gonna be absolutely fantastic. I keep telling JB and Jackson, just enjoy everything because that week is gonna be gone.
Oh yeah. We're less than a week away right now.
And in 1 week we will. Well, we sleep because it's 1:30 in the morning. No, actually, no one knows we will not be. We'll be drinking pink gin and partying the night away.
God almighty, shoot me in the face.
Don't knock it until you've tried it.
JB, what's the one thing you're looking forward to the most?
Just to hang. This will be my fourth trip to England. So I've seen a lot of it, but haven't seen the show. This will be my third trip to Bovington, third trip to Cosford, or second to Cosford, third to Duxford. So I've seen all the sites, but I haven't seen them. The first time I went with my dad, which was amazing. Second time I went with Lindsay, and the third time I went with her. So it's I got good people. So this will be with Ivan and Jackson and also John Everett. I'm looking forward to the Natural History Museum. That's something I haven't done in London. And I think we're going to do a champagne trip on the London Eye. The last night we're there.
We have.
So it'll be toasting and just it'll be a good try date, if that's what you can call it.
Threesome on the London Eye, as I keep saying.